It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Alex Lindsay is here from OfficeHours.global from WGBH in Boston. Andy Ihnatko. Renee Ritchie has the week off. More briefings from Apple, I'm guessing. But look who's in his place, the great Mark Gurman from Bloomberg and the Power On newsletter. Mark will tell us a little bit behind-the-scenes stuff from Apple's event last week. Some of the things he missed, some of the things he knew about, didn't miss. Also, which Apple products he's looking forward to, which ones he's going to buy. A little insight into what's ahead for Apple from somebody who knows better than almost anybody else. Coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
It's time for MacBreak Weekly, episode 809, recorded Tuesday, March 15th, 2022. As tall as a middle finger. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Blue Land. Stop wasting water and throwing out more plastic. Get Blue Land's revolutionary refill cleaning system instead. Right now, you can get 20% off your first order when you go to blueland.com/MacBreak. And by Zocdoc. In the chaotic world of healthcare, let Zocdoc be your trusted guide to find a quality doctor in a way that's surprisingly pain-free. Go to Zocdoc.com/MacBreak and download the Zocdoc app for free. Start your search for a top-rated doctor, many available within 24 hours at Zocdoc.com/MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest Apple news. Wow, we had a big week last week. In fact, it was so big, it's taking Apple 2 weeks to brief Renee Ritchie, so Renee's not here. Andy Ihnatko is here. It's great to have you from WGBH in Boston. From 090 Media, we've got Alex Lindsay, and I want to save our special guest for last because it's a real thrill to have Mark Gurman in the house from Bloomberg's Power On. It's really your Power On newsletter. It's good to see you, Mark.
My Power On newsletter. It's actually nice to be here. I think the last time I was on MacBreak Weekly may have been, 5-6 years ago. So a lot's changed since then.
It's our fault because I think I decided you're too big time for us. And so
that's
I have to admit, I looked at it. I jumped on this morning. I was like, Mark Gurman, like
the Mark
the
Gurman?
guy we always talk about, the Mark Gurman.
No, stop.
No, it's
Micah
true.
has me on all the time on the other shows, and it's always fun.
But for us, it's new.
You have a great group, Leo.
Well, hey, we're really glad to have you, and you do a great job. Of course, your ears should be burning on every Tuesday because we're always quoting you and the Power On. And if Renee were here, he has sussed your method because he knows when you say sources say that's a rumor, but when you say I expect, that's you. So we've been able to parse your prose very carefully from now on.
It depends. It changes based on how I'm feeling that day.
Oh, really?
Like sometimes.
So I expect could be something you know?
I like to shake it up. I expect to be something I know. I mean, I won't say something unless I think it's true, right? Like sometimes I'll just straight up say I expect this, and that, but that means I know it to be true. In other cases, I'll make it very clear. Like when I say this is my opinion, right? Like I wrote a story a few weeks ago saying that Apple should launch a $200 iPhone SE by lowering the price of the old one. Now, me saying Apple should do something doesn't mean that I necessarily think they're going to do it. I just thought they should do it, and I still think they should do it.
So clearly we're going to have to modify our parser so that we get you exactly right.
I like to keep you and Renee and everyone on your toes, right?
So actually, one of the things I was thinking after the event last Tuesday was how many things the rumor mill got wrong, actually.
Well, so what do you think the rumor mill got wrong?
Well, we didn't see that plexiglass-covered Mac Mini. I'm guessing that what happened was Apple saw the thermals of the Ultra, and they said, you know what?
Was that rumored? A plexiglass Mac Mini?
Wasn't it with the plexiglass top? Maybe not by you, but certainly.
Maybe. I hadn't seen that.
Certainly, there were renders of a Mac Mini with a thinner. Here, let me see. This is from May. Well, that's May of last year. Plexiglass, colorful, squared toy. There were lots of renders. Renders, you can't trust renders, obviously.
So there's 3 Mac Minis, or there were 3 Mac Minis in development, right? One of them was the Mac Studio. The Mac Studio is, depending on who you ask, it is either a beefed up Mac Mini or a shrunken down Mac Pro. The way it was explained to me is that there's 3 Mac Minis. One is the Mac Studio, that's the high end.
Yeah.
And then the mid tier is sort of the M1 Pro, M2.
Mac. Yeah.
Or the M2 Pro Mac Mini that's going to come out.
Yeah.
And then the M2 Mac Mini is the bottom tier. So the M2 Mac Mini would replace the M1 Mac Mini that launched a year and a half ago.
Right.
The M2 Pro Mac Mini would replace the Intel Space Gray Mac Mini that still exists. And then the Mac Studio, obviously, at the very high end. So those are your 3 Mac Minis.
Well, this is good. We only have 2 so far, but we will get the third. You think do you think June or do you think the fall?
So there will be new Macs both in the middle of the year, so between May, June, and there also will be new Macs in the fall. So my belief is the Mac Pro will come out either in the fall or be announced by the fall and released at the end of this year or sometime next year. I know the Mac Pro, they're so they were originally going to do an M1 Ultra, M1 Extreme version of the Mac Pro. But what I think people don't realize is that the M1 chip is actually based on the A14 architecture, which is from already 2 years ago,
right,
from 2020, right? And they're not going to want to release another Mac based on the A14 architecture. So they're going to move everything to an A15 base. Now, for all intents and purposes, the M1 and the M2 are not very different technology-wise, but it's a different code base, it's a different core, and so they have to shift to that. So I would expect new Macs between May and June, and then more new Macs in the fall. There's been a lot of talk about this iMac Pro. I think a lot of people are tuning in because they want to know what in the world is happening with the iMac Pro. And I saw a 9to5Mac a few days ago. They're hearing there's no bigger iMac. There's no iMac Pro in the works, but I'm pretty certain there's going to be an iMac Pro.
Interesting.
It'll probably be next year. Yeah, and it'll be like M2 Pro, M2 Max. It'll be the Mac desktop version of the MacBook Pro, which I'm on right now, and I think is awesome. So. I shouldn't speak for the others, out of ignorance based on just what I read from you and then what I can put together. But so a couple of things. One is I felt like this made a lot of sense. I was waiting to buy a Mini because I didn't want to buy another iMac because it seems silly to couple two devices with different update cadences, a display and a computer, into one thing. And so I was just going to buy a Mini, a high-end Mini. And it looked like Apple kind of had the same idea and said, we should deconstruct the iMac. You could still get an iMac, but you get it in 2 pieces. But you think that's not the case, that they still are going to do a 27-inch iMac Pro. That's Apple's party line until the iMac Pro comes out, right? They can't just have people waiting. So they're going to say, get our latest and greatest.
This is all there is.
Yeah. Right. But if you really break it down, the Mac Studio plus the Studio display, if you get it with the M1 the M1 Max, that's $2,000 almost, plus the display is $1,600, so that's a $3,600 machine, right? You get it with the M1 Ultra, that is what is the M1 Ultra, $4,000, that's a almost $6,000 machine, right? There is room in the lineup to have a
$5,000 iMac Pro.
Well, no, maybe, but I'm referring to something closer to $3,000, right, or in the high 2,000s. Something in that MacBook Pro tier, right? The MacBook Pro, I believe, is between mid 2000s and 3000s, depending on how you spec it out. I think it goes from $22.99 to $34.99 or $32.99 or whatever. Anyways, what I'm trying to say, it's in a $1,000 range in from the mid 2s to the mid 3s, right? That's the sweet spot for an iMac Pro. Whereas the Mac Studio with the display, that comes in above, right?
So it's a higher end device than an iMac Pro would be?
No, this is what an iMac Pro would be. It would be the desktop version of the MacBook Pro. So the MacBook Pro has the M1 Pro and the M1 Max, eventually the M2 Pro and the M2 Max. There will be an iMac equivalent.
Kind of in the same way that the 24-inch iMac is sort of like an iPad on a stick.
Exactly. Or the desktop equivalent to the MacBook Air.
Right.
or
Yes,
the 13-inch
that's
MacBook
right.
Pro.
It's a MacBook
And
Air.
by the way, there will be a revamped MacBook Air. This is going to be the biggest update to the MacBook Air in the product's history. That's coming this year, right? That's going to be a full redesign, colors,
and that's M2.
M2 chip.
M2, yeah.
That's M2. There's also going to be an M2 MacBook Pro this year. That's a 13-inch MacBook Pro. The 13-inch M1 MacBook Pro they have today will be updated to an M2. To be clear, though, the M1 Pro and M1 Max MacBook Pros, the 14 and 16 inches, those still will blow the M2 MacBook Air, Mac Mini, MacBook Pro out of the water, right?
Yeah, this is people have likened it to Intel's TikTok cadence, where you have a new platform, which is the M2, and then you enhance it, which is the M2 Ultra. So you had the M1, the M1 Pro Max, and Ultra. Then you can do the M2, which is going to be much closer to an M1, right?
M2 is essentially an M1.
Yeah.
It's an A15 based M1, right?
Right.
The CPU speed increases will be quite marginal, right? We're not talking about
That's the other thing I find interesting is that this Ultra still is the same clock speed as the base M1. I mean, they haven't changed clock speeds.
So the way these chips work is that they're completely dynamic, and like all these chips are all based on that Core M1, and they're just doubling and doubling and doubling, right? Like the Mac Pro will be essentially. You think
it'll be a quad core? It'll be quad die?
It'll be a quad die. Yeah. The Mac Pro will be a quad die. Right?
So when Johnny Cerrugi said there's one thing you don't know is this interconnect, did you know that?
Yes.
I know it.
Yes, of course. But the question is, so we know there's the interconnect at the bottoms of the M1 Maxes. The question I have is if there's interconnects on the sides as well, right? If it's going to be like a perfect square or if it's going to be a long.
Right. A big quad tower or a plus sign. Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah.
The thing that always gets me, what I think is it's a little funny to me, is I have zero concept of how physically big these chips are.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean,
they look big.
Obviously,
they're probably the size of your pinky nail, really. Yeah, exactly.
Who knows?
Who knows?
I guess that's something
they're
I should
inside a big
out,
plastic
right?
case. I guess you could figure it out. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think they're probably the size of. I mean, I would guess that the M1 Max is stacked. The M1 Ultra is probably the size of an iPhone.
Wow.
Right, like at the Mac Pro chip. Probably. Wow. Yeah, because I think an A14 or an A15 on its own is probably about the size. I think it's a little bit smaller than the camera bump itself.
Yeah.
So
just
based on the teardowns. So
man, this is so great. We're getting all this just straight story here. So the other thing I think we thought, you obviously didn't, but the rumor mill, which I'm going to keep you out of, thought there'd be a 7K display, which I thought was a strange beast.
That's coming.
That's still coming. Okay.
That's coming. So
that's part of the problem is that no one knows what Apple's going to release at any given time, but they know what might be in the pipeline.
Right. So the cheaper display, this was actually a pretty quick program, right? So they started working on that in, I believe, mid-2020.
Wow.
And they finished it like probably around mid to end of 2021.
That would kind of explain the A13 in it, actually.
That's exactly why. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So they had that A13.
That was that generation.
That was that generation, right? And they probably figured they didn't need more. So this display was ready to go for a while. And the concept behind it was to do a display at a third of the price of the Pro XDR. And it was developed to go alongside these M1 machines. So the MacBook Pro, the Mac Minis and whatnot. And then they're going to have that 7K to go alongside the Mac Pro. So what Apple's doing is they're basically taunting Intel at this point, right? Like Intel held Apple back so significantly. And what they've been able to do in just 2-3 years now is they've been able to rapidly expand the product line, and they're basically doing everything, right?
So now we know how big the M1 Ultra is. It's as big as the middle finger.
It's exactly right. It's as big as the middle finger, right? And so, and then the Mac Pro version is 2 middle fingers. So what you're able to do now is they're able to put out different Macs, different designs, different styles at different price points. And moving the Mac to Apple Silicon, I think, is one of Apple's greatest accomplishments.
It'll go down in history, honestly. Bigger than moving to Intel from PowerPC. Huge.
Yeah.
And the fact that it shares it shares DNA with the iPhone, the iPad, the new screen, the Apple TV. Like, there's a shared architecture all the way through that entire process. And for long-term development, that's a huge deal from an efficiency perspective.
Why put the A13 in a monitor? Is that for center stage and surround sound, or do they have higher hopes?
I sure hope they have higher hopes. I have high hopes for their high hopes, because there's a lot you can do with basically an Apple TV inside of a screen.
It's faster than the Apple TV 4K. I mean, it's the iPhone 11 chip. You could play games on it without it connected to anything. You could watch movies in a picture-in-picture, and it wouldn't affect your computer at all. Great for a picture-in-picture, yeah.
You could have calls, with it without the computer on or without the computer needing it. But there's also a lot of tight integration that can happen between all the devices as well. As far as AirPlay, you can AirPlay to it without it needing any other device, right?
In order to do that, though, maybe Mark knows something about this. You'd have to put in storage and memory. You can't just put a chip in it. You can't make it an Apple TV without storage, right? And even now they say to use Siri with it, you have to have a computer attached to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be very, very surprised if they. I don't think Apple's the company at this point that's going to come out of left field and say you can do all these tricks with the monitor as standalone.
Surprise! Yeah,
I'm not. I'm to be completely brutally honest. I'm not optimistic about Apple's ability to pull. Cat
so
out
why
of
not just put a T2 in there or something? Why put in all that processor power? Maybe they just had a bunch of them lying around?
I think so. And that takes me to another point. Like, I think one of the reasons they put the M1 and the iPad Air is because they need to save the A15s for other devices, right? We are in a chip crunch.
Right.
And, they probably have backlogs of certain chips developed.
They know what chips they have extras of. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the iPhone 11 is... they're sort of slowing down the units that they're selling of that device, right? They still sell the iPhone 11, I believe, on their website, even though they sell the SE, but I think they have plenty of those A13 chips. It also helps with cost efficiency as well. They've been producing the A13 for years now, so obviously economies of scale, as you continue to produce, the costs come down. So that's why I think they did it. And
if that's somebody calling from Cupertino, go ahead, take that call, because if you've got a hot tip, I don't want to slow you down.
Oh, that's not my phone.
Oh, okay, somebody else's. Alex, is your heart broken? I too. I thought an A13 would be something really.
Well, I think we just have to see what happens. I mean, we saw the ultra wideband chips in there for a long time without anybody turning them on. Like they just go.
That's true.
We'll put this in, because one of the things you look at when you start putting together a monitor is a monitor is going to stay around for a long time. So whatever you want to do with that monitor needs to be in it when it ships, and available for the next 3 to 5 years. So that's not, it's a longer term device, and so they have to think through that as well.
I agree, but I feel like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Andy.
No, I was just going to say, I think that it's simpler reasons than that there's some cool features that are kind of require an iPhone to make work. It's very, very easy to make it work if you just basically take a CPU from there and run the same sort of stack on there. I mean, it does have center stage. I think that's the sort of reason why they're putting that kind of chip in there. We're not going to know for sure until iFixit tears the thing, not just the tears the case down, but really tears that board down to see, as Leo suggested, is there more support hardware attached to this CPU than is simply required just to activate really good visual processing, really good image processing, really good audio processing, and center stage. That's when we'll know if there's future enabled. Otherwise, I really think this is all about giving you the best webcam experience, the best chat, the best conferencing experience that you can possibly get.
And again, if you've got them in the warehouse, use them.
True.
I completely agree with Andy. I think that's the simplest explanation.
Yeah.
To me, aside from Alex's very good point about the ultra wideband chips, I think Apple's the type of company that puts out hardware and they move on. Right? I think what you see is what you get with the A13.
Yeah, they don't do the Google Pixel drop thing where, hey, guess what? We're going to turn on 3 new features. They've never done that, I don't think. Yeah. Well, wait a minute. They've done it for the HomePod Mini. And the HomePods, haven't they turned on additional features with those? So
the HomePod Mini, this is an interesting one, actually has a humidity sensor.
Exactly.
Inside.
Right.
But they haven't turned it on yet.
Yeah.
And it's had that sensor in it for 2 years. So maybe they'll turn it on in a year or so. But
and sometimes
still.
And I think sometimes they put the hardware in thinking that it was going to be ready on time, but they're not going to put anything out just yet because it's not quite ready. And things get rolled out a little bit later. We've definitely seen that in the past.
I hope I'm wrong. I would just be shocked if they added any additional bells and whistles. Like from their perspective, $1,600 for that display, it should be pretty bare bones, seeing how much the other display is.
It's so expensive.
And I think the panel in there is essentially the same as the panel in the LG one.
Of course it is.
2016.
Of course it is. Yeah.
But here's the good news. Not to be a pessimistic, to be an optimistic here. How great is it that Apple is back to making a bunch of Macs? How great is it that Apple's back to refreshing the Mac cycle at a appropriate timelines, and they're making monitors again?
Yeah.
It was only 5-6 years ago when it felt like the Mac was completely dead.
Why did they get out of monitors?
I think there was a miscalculation inside the company probably around 2015, 2016, where they felt like we have the iPad Pro now. We need to focus all of our attention on the iPad, on the iPhone, and really move post Mac and PC and sort of turn the PC into trucks. Remember Steve Jobs' whole ethos about how the PC was eventually going to become a truck. Yeah. And so they tried to wind things down. They moved to LG for monitors. The MacBook Pro was turned into like a disaster of a product. And then their Pro audience created a backlash for them. And if Pro users are sort of shifting away from Macs and shifting to Microsoft devices or devices from other companies, they're going to be exposed to new ecosystems. And that's going to risk Apple's ability to keep selling those people iPhones and AirPods and Apple Watches, right? The ecosystems are entire packages together. And if you lose one element of the ecosystem, you risk losing your whole ecosystem.
Yeah, we did. In fact, we shifted away from Mac Pros with Final Cut to Premiere running on Dell Precision workstations. And Microsoft's telling a very good story for developers with WSL and so forth. I think that's a very real threat. And I think Apple probably is wise to pay attention.
Yeah. And it affects not just the Pro users, but the schools that look at the Pro users and the people that see the behind the scenes and the people who, there's all these things.
Well, it trickles down to
impact
everything.
Yeah.
I mean, if you lose developers, you lose apps.
And I think that Apple constantly is trying, in some cases they've been successful really only with the phone, of having a really healthy ecosystem that builds up around the device. So the phone has all these, there's thousands of cases and there's all these little things you can add to it because the market's so big and it's so much the same. It's the same form factor that's there. And I think Apple tries to do this in other areas and has not been super successful. So they, HomeKit is a disaster, because people aren't, they're doing what all these other companies do, which is I want to play like every bass I can possibly play. So none of it actually works. And then in the same way, monitors never really caught up with what a Mac can do. Every monitor I have that I've gotten for it, including the LG ones, are just okay. Like you're just kind of like, and there's not anything that really fully leverages the Mac, and it's always a little, weird. So I think that they had to come back to, owning the entire ecosystem.
Crazy thought, and I've heard other people say it. Maybe you put the A13 in that Apple Studio monitor for a touch.
I don't think so.
Yeah, no, you'd have to. That you can't because you'd have to put a touch sensor in the screen.
Yeah, and you have to change the surface, and then you have to. And the big problem is that it does so much. Like there's, it works well when you put the Gorilla Glass in or whatever. But touching screens, that's like for an artist especially, touching their screen is not something that's usually. It's like just tapping someone on the forehead over and over and over again. So like artists look at that like, don't touch my screen. It's not.
Renee always said, Mark, that there were two kind of warring factions within Apple. The Johnny Ive faction, which made the butterfly keyboard and the touch bar and thinner and lighter and lighter. And then the old school folks who really said, you can't forget Mac. And that old school, when you look at the MacBook Pro 14-inch with its HDMI port and no touch bar and a giant escape key, that looks like that old school team won. Is that your sense of what went on, or is it a little more complicated than that?
That sounds about right. But I think Apple's mistake was letting those be separate factions within the company. Yeah. Right?
But it happens all the time. That's what happens at Google. It's what happened at Microsoft for years.
Right. But Apple has enough money and resources and different types of customers where there's no reason to have that, attitude of A versus B. You need to have both. You need to have a MacBook Air for the people who want that design, people who don't need the computer for anything more than Facebook and Zoom. And then you need to have an option, a MacBook Pro, for people that need all that stuff. And this is what Apple is doing. What Apple had done 5 years ago is they had moved entirely into that Johnny Ive direction, where the MacBook Pro was essentially a MacBook Air with more premium features tacked on. But now you have a real MacBook Pro, and you have that MacBook Air option for that butterfly keyboard, the more futuristic stuff. So it should have always been the case where Apple is offering both simultaneously. The customer who wants this can buy this. The customer who wants that can buy that. And now you have more price points. You have more options for consumers. And I think it's brilliant that Apple realized that they should just be doing both things and offering both and, being there for every customer.
As an old school Mac guy, I appreciate it. I'm very, very glad that.
I love this thing. I use the HDMI port on this MacBook Pro every week.
Interesting.
I think MagSafe is great.
Yeah.
The keyboard is fantastic. I'm glad the touch bar is gone.
Yep.
I think the display is ridiculously great. I have the 16-inch one, and I love the big size. This is my main computer. I have not used my iPad Pro basically at all since I've gotten this. The reason I was using my iPad Pro a lot was because my previous MacBook Pro was the Intel 2019 16-inch. It's a piece of junk. I think the fans were running. Yeah, no, I'm
serious. It was
serious.
a very expensive piece of junk, which many of our employees still have.
It is. I'm sorry to Leo's employees.
I agree with you 100%. That's all we could get.
Disappointing machine. Well, I wanted to work on my lap, and I would sometimes have to put a towel over my lap while using it because it would get hot. It's an Intel problem, right? Yep. The fans always were running like an airplane. And I'm very happy that Apple moved away from Intel. I couldn't have more than 10 Chrome tabs open on that Intel machine, right? Whereas what I realized is on the iPad, I can have 400 tabs open and it wouldn't blink an eye. And this was on I never got the M1 iPad Pro. I had the A12X or A12Z, MacBook Pro, the pandemic edition, the 2020 March iPad Pro with the LiDAR. And that thing flew through everything. And so I went almost full time on that until this M1 Pro MacBook Pro came out. Yeah, because the Intel MacBook Pro, it was a deterrent to getting my work done.
Yeah. My poor son has to use one for his TikTok videos. I have to get him a
Poor guy. Poor guy. I remember just to keep in context here, we know we're talking about $2,000 computers here. We know our audience are people that, understand this, right? Obviously there's a lot other important things going on in the world other than MacBook Pro processors.
Yes,
so.
And we say that at the beginning of every show, and I didn't say it this time. This is the toy store. This is irrelevant compared to the most important things that are going on in the world around us. But, hey, that's, sometimes people come here for refuge from the real world.
That's how I always look at it. I always look at, I look at this whole business as a refuge from reality.
Yeah, we're not talking about real stuff. It's like, and I bet you were it's like when you're a sports fan, people are going back and forth over, oh my God, Tom Brady didn't retire, as if that's important at all. But it's a way of letting off some steam and having,
that's all it is.
You can't suffer 24/7.
We're lucky enough to talk about it.
Yes.
And our audience is lucky enough to hear about it,
I agree.
right?
I agree. We're very fortunate. Yeah, that's a really good point, Mark. Thank you for saying that. Oh, we have a lot more to talk about. Speaking of suffering, iOS 15.4 came out. My new Monterey came out 12.3, but I couldn't get universal control working. I was actually late today because I said I can't come to work without universal control working. It's still not working. I don't know. Maybe you guys can help me. We're talking about that. We have lots more to talk about. It's great to have Mark Gurman here from Bloomberg, the Power On newsletter. A must subscribe. I subscribe, and you should all subscribe at Mark Gurman if you've got any. What's your number one way to get tips? Is it through DMs on Twitter?
Oh, tips. On my Twitter bio, there's information about Signal, Wicker, and Telegram.
Yeah. There you go.
Email and all that.
You probably don't have to solicit tips.
No.
They just come to you.
This is not a solicitation.
Well, it's a forward-looking statement. You work for Bloomberg now. You got to pay attention. How has it been going, by the way? I think it's been very good for you, yes?
I love it here. It's an amazing group, and the ability to have like-minded colleagues across the world who I'm able to work with certainly makes things easier and makes things more reliable. I love the TV stuff. I love that I have the flexibility to do things like this. I do a Twitter Spaces now, something new I'm trying.
Nice.
A newsletter. Yeah,
nice.
You know what? I'm thrilled. So,
I see your Twitter Spaces set up behind us. You didn't use that for the show today. Your camera and your microphone and all that stuff.
Oh no, this is for radio. And
oh, okay.
My PC and everything. So.
Oh, it's a PC. Oh, never mind. Yeah, you can't use a PC on this show.
I knew if I was coming on MacBreak Weekly, I needed to bring out the MacBook Pro.
Yeah. Pay no attention to this Lenovo Linux desktop I'm sitting in front of.
What is that? That I was going to ask you. So is that a touch? What's the deal?
Yeah, it's touch. So when Microsoft came out with the Studio, I said, look, this is great. I can have an all-in-one that has such a steep angle. I can have it in front of me. So I can have a big screen. If Apple would make this, I would do it, but they don't. So, I mean, I guess I could do a Visa mount or something, but...
why is Apple not doing something like that? Here's a funny story. I've probably been to the Apple headquarters, I don't know. I was there a few times for various Apple events. I was inside a lobby once, and I was in the waiting room in the lobby. Someone had ordered the Surface Studio. This was 5-6 years ago, and it was a Surface Studio, the Microsoft version of you have, just sitting there. I was like, I guess they want to see what's going on with that. 6 years later, they still don't have a comparative product.
And Microsoft fumbled it. They've killed it because they put a really low-powered CPU in it because I guess the cost was really that screen. It was a very nice screen. So, beautiful. But what they should have done is sold the screen standalone and let you run a NUC or something more powerful as the desktop. So I abandoned that because it really was underpowered. This is a Lenovo, basically copy of it. So and it's running.
Oh, that's the Yoga.
And it's running Linux, by the way. It's not running Windows because I'm not crazy.
That's a beautiful machine.
I know. Nice. I'm very happy. It's perfect for this purpose. I'm not sure I'd want it at home. Right. Although if you're an artist, maybe more that was Microsoft's idea, is more like a drafting table that you could draw on. But
I like the something for everyone approach, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, that's what PCs are great for.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But that's the point of, the PC market. There's thousands of manufacturers. You can get any form factor you want. Apple can't do that for obvious reasons. They have to pick and choose.
Exactly.
Let's take a little break. I want to show you something, actually. Our sponsor today is Blue Land. The future of clean has arrived. Actually, I'm kind of a Blue Land fanatic. If you meet me on the street, I might pull you aside, I might buttonhole you and say, have you tried Blue Land? Every year, about 5 billion plastic hand soap and cleaning bottles are thrown away. Single-use bottles. You see it. You get your cleaning solution and you get your single-use bottle and it's done. You throw it out and you get a new one. And if that's not bad enough, the solutions inside those bottles are 90% water. So you are shipping water and plastic bottles and then throwing them out. Blue Land helps you stop wasting water, stop throwing out single-use plastics. It's a revolutionary refill cleaning system instead, and we have them all over the house. This, for example, this is the Blue Land hand soap. Really nice, heavy glass. It has to be heavy because you're going to pump it, right? And then to fill it up, I love this, you get little tablets. So you use your water. You don't have to ship the water. And by the way, I got the Christmas tablets at Christmas time, and they have great scents. But that's not all. Blue Land does it all. You buy one bottle, you refill it forever. Here's the, let me take these out. This is the spritz bottle, and they have different colors, so you can easily tell one from the other. It's nice. This is, by the way, be a great gift, housewarming gift, bride gift, because, you need all this stuff when you first set up a house. So this one, it says bathroom cleaner. So you have the, let me find the, here they are. These are the little pellets. You get these sent out. I actually subscribe, so you get them when you need them. This is, by the way, these are the toilet cleaner ones. These are very, very hot. Oh, here's the little pellets for the cleaner. This is how big they are. So you fill this up with warm water to the line. You drop this in. You let it fizz for a little bit. Now you've got cleaner. And when you need more, you don't throw the bottle out. And this one's a nice lightweight, hard plastic lightweight. You don't throw the bottle out. you get more tablets. This is the Blueland toilet cleaner holder. I'll put the toilet cleaner here. This, by the way, people, they sell these out so fast. They love these because you just put it in the toilet, go about your other business for a little bit. See these little tablets? They fizz for a little while in the toilet. Nice lemon scent. And then you just brush it out and it's clean. So it's a really great solution. Get the Clean Essentials kit. That'll give you everything you need. I have more here. I have a lot of it. The plastic-free laundry and dishwasher tablets. They have something for every inch of your home. Toilet tablet cleaners are backed by popular demand. They sold out so fast because people said, this is the way. This is the way. Here's the dish soap we use. Instead of using the squirter, you shake a little dish soap out. Lisa loves it. And this is a nice hard rubber container, easy to put in the dishwasher in between, and then you refill it with more dish soap. And when they ship it to you, they just ship it like this after you get the container, and you just kind of make your own. And it's just as good. It's really exactly the same. What I didn't realize is you're 90% water you're shipping around the country just so people don't have to put in the dish soap. Fill these beautiful, so they say, Instagrammable bottles with warm water. Pop in one of the hand soap or spray cleaner tablets within minutes. You have powerful cleaning products. Great scents, iris agave, perine lemon, lavender eucalyptus. For the hand soap, I got the Christmas package. I smell like gingerbread when I love it. I love it. It's so good. They have peppermint. They have gingerbread. You'll have to wait next Christmas for that. From their best-selling Clean Essentials kit to their hand soap duo. I actually got 2 duos so we could have the hand soap in at every sink. Plastic-free laundry and dishwasher tablets. Blueland has something for every inch of your home. It's incredible. Blueland's stunning, high-quality forever bottles start at just $10 when you buy a kit. They're meant to be reused forever, so no plastic waste. You got to try Blueland. You'll feel good about it. You'll love it. The planet will thank you. It is a much better way of doing this. Blueland.com/MacBreak. You get 20% off your first order right now if you go to Blueland, BLUELAND.com/MacBreak. We're really proud and happy to have them as a sponsor, and I really strongly encourage you to take advantage of this. 20% off. Blueland.com/MacBreak. Let's see. Andy Ihnatko, I've heard of him, tweets, updated my MacBook and iPad Pro for universal control tonight. I like it so much I'm forcing myself to leave my desk and go to bed. I'm too excited about doing an actual work session with this setup, and I probably shouldn't stay up until 7 a.m. on a weeknight, but... And then there's a thread, which you didn't even know how long it was going to be. So everybody says it just works. You just do it. So I updated.
Well, okay.
Why not for me? What about me?
There's an updated tweet. That was done like when I just had like my MacBook, my M1 MacBook and my M1 iPad Pro like on a table in my living room, and it was working just as easily as that and just as quickly as that. So this morning, like I left my other iPad Pro, like my Gen 1, like 2015, to charge. Then spent this morning updating it to the latest iPadOS. Could not get it to work on my on my office desktop.
I mean, not good. I think that good.
Well, and I also So I was figuring that maybe it's because it's a Gen 1. I know that it's compatible according to the compatibility list. So I tried, at least I'll get my M1 working, and that doesn't work either. I think right now the reason why it wasn't working is that I'm in my office right now, so I have my M1 MacBook connected to an external monitor, to an external display, and with the external display, for some reason it's confusing the hell out of where iPads are and how to connect to them. So when I disconnect the external display, it works fine. So it's like, okay, that's not ideal. I think maybe I should have informed Apple that some people do plug external monitors into laptop computers because it is late 1990s by now.
Well, in their defense, they do say, in fact, it even says on the buttons. So what we're talking about, universal control, you turn it on, you have to have Monterey 12.3, you have to have iOS or iPadOS 15.4. That was one of the big features in the update. Turns on this thing that they touted last fall, right? Universal control. You can drag your mouse, push your mouse through to the other screen on the iPad. You're still running iOS, but you can now use your mouse and keyboard with the iPad, push it in the other direction. I don't know what you got over there, but you can. Does it work with an iPhone? I guess presumably it would work with an iPhone. Yes.
I
don't know.
don't think so.
Oh, it has to be. So it's an iPad or a Mac.
Only.
Okay.
I think so. I'd have to double check. But yeah, but it's a very, when it was working last night, it was a really impressively seamless experience. It just moves. There isn't a hesitation. There isn't like a Twilight Zone moment. It just feels as though it's an external display.
You do have to enable it on the Mac, as I remember. It's
on both sides.
Both.
You do have to. Yeah, the iPad or whatever the device it is, it just appears under the displays settings panel. So you basically click add a display. It will have automatically
maybe that's what I didn't do. Okay.
Maybe.
So I turned on the switches, and all three of them say beta, beta, beta.
Right.
Turn those on, but I have to also select the iMac in the air.
No, and on your Mac you have to in displays it will appear as an option. There'll be a pop-up list of.
See, it didn't show up in displays. It didn't.
Then that's it. Are you on the exact same Wi-Fi network?
Same Wi-Fi. I did everything. I switched to the other Wi-Fi. I turned off. I use NextDNS. I turned that off. I had iCloud Relay. I turned that off. I literally spent an hour messing with it this morning. So there's something maybe just not working for me. It's a neat idea.
Were you wearing dark-soled shoes?
Yeah, that was the problem. I'm wearing white pants after Labor Day. There you go. That's it. That's the issue. Yep. I think that. It should be clear that this is not Sidecar, which allows you to use an iPad as a second display. So it becomes a Mac. The iPadOS stays the iPad. And so you're just really sharing a keyboard and mouse with two different operating systems, in effect, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. But it works extremely well. Like I said, it's not a case of like a lot of us have been using KVMs and whether it's hardware or software for a long time. It really does feel like last night at least, it felt like I was using just one unified workspace to the extent that it obviously you can drag things from one device to another. So highlight text and on the iPad, drag it into whatever you want it to go. It has a shared clipboard, so you Command C on one screen, Command V on the other one. It really, really works well. One of the things I liked that I thought was a really nice touch back before this morning when the troubles began was that I'd accidentally switched off that feature, and so when I tried to move my mouse like back into the iPad, it sort of like stretched a screen into it and stopped as if to say, yeah, I see it. It's properly configured, but you told me not to use this as a display, so I'm not going to let that happen. So that's when you go, oh, boom, that's stupid me, and then make that work. Also, if it falls asleep and if it sleeps for some reason and you mouse back into it, it will automatically wake the display and restart that. So it's some nice stuff. It just has to work like consistently for everybody. I'm so disappointed because if I could show you like my new setup this morning, I got out like two different like stands, adjusted them just so. I've got this screen looking like Yoda because it's this big like blocky thing in the middle, and two sticky outy ears on the side, and I'm like, oh, this was going to be so cool because it really.
What's the use case? So what's the use case?
The use case is, for me, I could immediately see, like in a show like this, I also need to sort of keep an eye on a couple of things. Like if there's an emergency that comes in through Slack or through Discord or through messages or through email, I'm not going to bail out of the podcast, but I at least want to take 5 seconds, say, hi, I'm in a podcast, but I'm on top of this. I'll get to that immediately. Or if there's a breaking news thing that I know is going to change my afternoon, for me, it would be a perfect place to put those sort of incidental apps without having to. I would keep
IRC running, say, or Discord running in the iPad, and still have all my work stuff set up.
And it's also going to be killer for travel. I mean, I think the thing is, I wouldn't be as excited about this if being able to use the iPad as an external display worked properly, which it just so totally does not.
Sidecar, you mean?
Sidecar, I'm sorry. I can never remember that correct name because it always screws up. It never reconnects correctly. And then it keeps like regathering windows in a very, very strange and bizarre way when it accidentally disconnects. And it gets me so frustrated that I can't, whatever time it's going to save me by having an external display like in my hotel room, I lose that in the time I'm going to have to take to reset my workspace because it decided that, I bet he didn't want these windows where they originally were. I'm just going to dogpile them all into one big lump. But it's very, very very, very a lot of potential there. If it's going to work for me, I'm going to really, really enjoy it because, like I said last night, I'm trying to get to bed before 2 a.m. every night for the first time since I was like 14.
I think I failed to select this. So this is the display that you will see on your Mac. This is the display's control panel. And under Add Display, by the way, Sidecar still works. This is from Mac Rumors. You'll see your Sidecar displays where it says Mirror or Extend To, but you'll also see a new entry, Link Keyboard and Mouse, and that's the universal control. So maybe I might have hustled through. They don't really give you a step-by-step on how to do this. There's a number of things you have to do. You have to enable it. You have to make sure you're on the same iCloud account, the same Wi-Fi account. Bluetooth has to be turned on. They did release a video, but it's one of those, hey, everything's going to work perfectly. There's no need for us to tell you how to troubleshoot everything because there's no chance whatsoever this is not going to work. Yeah. So I don't have to do anything on the iPad, but Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and handoff all have to be turned on.
You do have to enable something in the iPad, but it's on by default. It was on by default for me when I installed 12.4. I think it's in like sharing.
But presumably, once you've got it all turned on, it's just work.
Right. It's under AirPlay and handoff in settings. You make sure the cursor and keyboard parentheses beta is switched on, and that's it.
It's a good example of Apple using a variety of technologies that they've been building in over time to do something cool and interesting.
Yeah, and for someone like me, I mean, I have multiple computers.
Do you use it?
I have. No, not yet. Yeah. I have to admit that I'm still
You're slow
unwinding.
Yeah.
Well, also I got into Synergy and I was like, okay, this is much better than KVM.
Oh, right.
And then I trashed one of my M1s that I'm still trying to get it to work right. It's never been the same. And so Synergy just drove it into the ground. And so I've literally never seen a Mac damaged so badly ever. Because like it was.
You can't just rebuild it and it all works again?
No, I rebuilt it and it's still funky. And I'm gonna try to grind it all the way down. But it's the I'm trying to do firmware updates now. That's the next thing. And I don't have a lot of time to work on it. So it just sits there right now waiting for me to get back to it because it's a lot of work. What happened was I dragged a hard drive and I was like, I'll just get it over to the corner here. And it just got a little over the edge between two computers. And it went into a race condition where literally I could restart it, plug hardware into the computer, and it still couldn't see it. Like this keyboard and mouse wouldn't work. Oh my gosh, Siri. So anyway, but she sees it.
She wants to help. She's trying to help.
I found help on the web. Anyway, so I was like, well, we have to take Synergy off of everything and never use it again. And so I'm using I'm back to KVM, waiting for this to and because of my Synergy experience, I'm kind of like, I'm going to wait for a little while and just see what happens and just stay with my KVM. But I'm super excited about it actually, working with my studio. I'll have, 3 Mac Minis and, a Mac Studio all on my desk, and I've got lots of monitors. And so it's just a matter of being able to figure out where they all go.
Hey, Synergy. No, I thought maybe that was.
I think Siri was just worried. She was just worried about me.
I'm so sorry. Well, now I want to go home right now. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I've got a question for Andy. So let's say you have an iPad with a mouse connected, or an iPad and a Magic Keyboard with the trackpad. Can you use that to control the Mac over universal control, or is it only in the other direction?
It's supposed to go both ways, isn't it? I remember seeing a demo that it went both ways. Yeah.
I did see that in a demo. Everything that I've been trying has been, there is one Mac that acts as sort of the truth for the entire network, and then that extends to everything else. I haven't started really abusing it yet, partly because of my failure this morning. For one thing I want to know is that let's say that I'm in a coffee shop and my Wi-Fi and both my MacBook and my iPad are both connected to the Starbucks Wi-Fi, but I'm connecting through a VPN. Will they still be able to talk to each other? Because Wi-Fi, even if you have your Mac's connection to the internet and the rest of your home network or office network via Ethernet, you still have to have that Wi-Fi connection for it to reach out and find other compatible devices and connect to them. So I don't know whether that would still work with a VPN. I don't even necessarily know if it will work well over a public Wi-Fi. So there's still things I think everybody's going to try to start beating up on it, beta or no, to find its failure points.
Here's another question. So let's say you're using a Mac trackpad to control an iPad, and you want to do the iPad gesture.
Oh.
Do you do the iPad gesture or do you do the Mac gesture to
If you're,
the iPad?
it depends. Right. It depends. The truth is where the mouse pointer is. When you move the mouse pointer into the iPad, for instance, the Mac menu bar dims out. The cursor for the iPad turns into the iPad cursor, and now any gesture that you make on the Magic Trackpad or on your MacBook's trackpad is pinch and zoom, pinch and stretch work perfectly fine. All the multiple fingertip features work perfectly fine. It really is. The trackpad turns into the screen of the iPad in terms of input.
Got it. Cool. I'll have to give it a shot. It's surprising that I haven't tried it yet, but
It's. I imagine. I don't know, but I imagine, like Renee, that you're on betas of everything, and so it's a little tricky for you to do stuff like this.
time is limited, right?
Yeah.
So much going on. I mean, I just.
It's one of the reasons I don't do the macOS and iPadOS betas or iOS betas is because I want to kind of experience it as a normal human would.
Yeah, my problem was this is one of the features I've been sorely looking forward to for an entire year, and unfortunately, the only Mac that I owned that was compatible with this was the only M1 Mac, the only Mac that I have that is like less than 5 years old.
Well, that's
and I could not jeopardize it with a developer preview of anything.
Somebody responded to your tweets. Well, I can't get it running on my 2014 5K iMac. No, you can't, because you need Monterey 12.3 to do this. And I have several. In fact, it's really Apple's way of nudging us to all get Mac Studios. You really would be much happier if you only had a Mac Studio. My office computer can't go to Monterey. Lisa's computer at home can't go to Monterey. So that's 2 Mac Studios we've purchased. Mark, do you have a Apple? Does Apple give you a review? No, you're probably persona non grata there, right?
I don't know if I'm persona non grata. I don't have any review units to the new stuff. I also haven't asked for any review units.
I don't bother asking because I know they wouldn't, so I don't bother.
Oh, that's funny. But
so I just buy it. I don't mind. I'm made of money.
Here's a question
I got plenty of money. I don't need
the Mac Studio. How much of people's willingness to purchase a Mac Studio is based on the name? What if they called it the Mac Mini
No,
Pro?
the Studio's a much better name. No. Yeah, I agree.
It's less sexy, right? And so it's like
Studio's a good name.
I think it's their naming, it's their marketing that's really selling.
When did you hear the words studio?
What do you mean?
Like the day you reported the rumor the day before, so.
Oh, a few days before.
A few days before. See, it's my theory, and again, certainly don't want to get you in touch with anybody, and I'm not in any way. I have no knowledge of how anybody works in this field, but it's my sense that you hear stuff about stuff in production. You always have to say, well, is that going to be released, and is it going to be released when? And then, like the Apple car or everything, I don't know, when's that going to come out? But then there's also, especially as you get really close to an event, like a couple of days before, they had to bring in third-party contractors, people like Alex, to shoot all of that stuff. I don't think Apple doesn't do that stuff in-house. No, they bring in people for that.
I think they have a lot of, I mean,
they do it all in-house now?
They've talked about it in the past. They do a lot of it in-house. They have their own studios for their commercials.
Well, that would be a reason to do it, because you can control your employees in ways you can't control third parties.
That's why they do that.
Well, it's also cheaper, right? It's also cheaper. And
I don't know.
I don't think
anything
it's
at Apple is cheaper.
Unless you do 20 events a year, it's not cheaper because you got all these people sitting around.
Well, no, but they're doing. But no, you got to get those studios. You could use studios like that for a lot of things. All your, there's lots of communication that goes out from Apple that isn't a keynote. So a studio can generate content for a lot of things.
Under Steve Jobs, Apple built, and I worked in it, so I know it exists, right next to the original campus, an Apple TV studio, which they sold. They got rid of. They didn't use it. They leased it out because there wasn't enough business to keep all those technicians busy. But that was years
pre-video.
ago.
That was the pre-video is the future kind of world.
We did a show there in 1994 for CNBC because Gina Smith and I, and Jim Latterback, because Apple wasn't using it. In fact, CKS had moved in there.
There's a huge amount of content that's created for YouTube, that's created for internal communications, it's created for
that's why they
external
hired
communications. There's a lot of things going on there.
Know. Yeah. Okay. So maybe I just thought, there's going to be some sound guy.
Well, it's different.
Who knows? Who saw the studio? Said it's called the studio. and it's going to,
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that when you have a live stage event, that's much harder because you have rehearsals and so on and so forth that are going on.
Oh, interesting.
For the, so that's because that's typically for most companies, that is an external company that comes in and does your stage stuff. That's a specialty that you don't want to keep. That truly is something that you don't want to keep on staff. So you hire, it's a broadcast truck and it's a thing. And, like there's a whole bunch of stuff that comes in for, and this is for not just that, this is for Apple or Google or Facebook or
anybody,
Microsoft.
Yeah.
So they'll do that. Now that's where a lot of rumors can happen because it's very porous. I mean, like if you go to some of these, they give you stickers that you have to put on top of your phone, on your the
camera.
Different companies will put them on, but you're like, well, you ask for one phone, you put one sticker on. Who says the person doesn't have like 3 phones? And so the thing is it's absurd. It does what it does do is it does tell the crew, hey, we're looking for those stickers. If you pick up your phone and we don't see a sticker, we're going to be upset. But that's where things start to happen. And I think that usually you're working with trusted contractors. A lot of these companies won't work with contractors they don't trust. And as a contractor, it's pretty much the end of your business with that company if something gets out. So most of the contractors stay pretty tight, but everybody, worries about that. But I think that's where you see more leaks is when you're doing a live event. Apple's not doing those. So those are recorded all in a studio or a series of studios.
Yeah, that they can
and then
control.
they're played out.
Yeah.
They're playing them out. So
yeah. So who did this set? This is a set, you'll recognize this from the section where they showed how creatives were using the studio. Because now I might be wrong, but look very closely at this plant. I think that's in a Mac Pro pot. I think that's a repurposed. Am I wrong? I think that's a repurposed Mac Pro.
It depends. Does it look like it's overheating?
Look at the bottom. That's the giveaway.
That's
if you ask, am I wrong?
There's a little. Yeah.
Now that's
a little Easter egg.
Yeah, it's an Easter egg, but it's kind of a funny. I can see Apple throwing that in. Just haha. Remember that?
Yeah.
We found a good use for it. Just to hollow it out.
Oh man,
it does though. When you look at this and you look at that and you look at how big that studio is, that really is a fat boy. Look at that thing.
Yeah,
that is a chubby hubby.
If that really is that's harsh. That's harsh. That's like wow. Make a planter out of your own. but
I might be wrong. I don't know. I saw this on Reddit. I thought it does look like a Mac Pro. Anyway. So, I have so many things I want to ask Mark.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Okay. And you just, if I don't want to, don't want to jeopardize your sources or anything, obviously. What do you think of this Ming Chi Kuo guy, though, really? I'm sorry.
Well, Ming Chi Kuo,
forget I said that. No, you can go ahead. Go ahead, answer if you want.
He's not my source, right?
No, I know he's not.
But, respect.
Clearly.
I tend to respect everyone.
You would never say anything. He is saying today that Apple must reorganize its Apple Car team if they want to meet their 2025 production goal.
It's funny because I wrote those exact words in January.
Oh, really?
Well, what happened was Apple had this Apple Car management team that it built up under Doug Field. And they sort of built it up, and everything was fine until the end of 2019. It was pretty stable. And then this management team, I think 10, 15 people under Doug Field. Doug Field was the head of engineering for Elon Musk, Tesla. He oversaw vehicle programs for Model 3 and a few other of their products.
Big acquisition.
Big
Huge.
hire for Tesla at the time, right? And then big hire for Apple. And
to get him back. To
get him back. And over the course of 2020, across 2020 and 2021, nearly every single leader on the Apple Car team left over that 2-year span.
Right.
The entire leadership team,
right.
The entire top layer of the Apple Car program at Apple left the company over a 2-year period, including Field himself, for Ford. A few of those people actually went to flying car or flying taxi startups. And, my joke is I guess they find it more likely that they'll be able to release a flying car than an Apple car, right? That drives on the wheels. So they are having a make it or break it type of year where they need to figure out who is going to run different teams, who's going to be in charge of this thing. It's basically now the second layer of the company has become the top layer, right? It's like a full succession, right? They wiped out the whole management team. Now everyone has stepped up. It's run now by Kevin Lynch, who ran watchOS. He's the only guy at Apple who, from start to finish, developed an entire new operating system, an entire new product, being the Apple Watch and watchOS. So, the watchOS, the Apple Watch, it's pretty mature. It's pretty successful at this point, right? And so I guess the bet is that if he did that, he can do what he did for the watch for cars. Obviously, a car and a watch is two completely different beasts. I think they'll probably need to get some, classic car people in there too to help them out.
Best guess. Do you think they're actually going to build a car?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My best guess is they will announce a car probably between 2025 and 2026.
That's crazy.
I have zero doubt. Unless something has changed in the last hour, I'm pretty certain that they'll come to the conclusion that they're going to do this.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is also the changing role of a car, for a lot of people, in the sense that when you're trying to build something for 2 or 3 years and you have to look at kind of the pulse of what people want, and I think that when Waymo did something without a driver's seat, it looked crazy. I know that what the market that I'm in is I want a box that drives by itself and has things that I can do inside of it. I don't want to drive. I don't want to sit anywhere that's driving. I don't want to have any of those things. And so it'll be, and when I talk to people, they're like, oh yeah, that's what I want, and so I think that it's an interesting, interesting puzzle to try to figure out where it's going.
It's a moving target though, you admit. And what you want is not necessarily.
No, but it's when you're not driving. Market. When you're not driving, why would you, like, if you're building a driverless electric car?
Because I'm terrified. And I want to,
we're terrified.
My wife
now,
calls it an oh shoot handle. Not exactly that, but I want a way to, I want a button to disengage. I want something. I don't want to end up in a container ship on the way to China.
It's very scary, the self-driving stuff.
Thank
you. The Tesla autopilot.
It's terrifying.
Time to time.
My hands are on that wheel.
It's very terrifying.
They say they want you to,
Yeah.
but even on my Mach-E, I'm getting the Blue Cruise, which is Ford's hands off. I'm gonna keep my finger kind of there just in case. I'm not gonna go read a book. I'm gonna be kind of scanning at all times. I don't.
So do you have the full FSD or just the standard autopilot on the Tesla?
I no longer have a Tesla, and so I don't have an experience with FSD. I have a Mach-E, a Ford Mustang Mach-E.
How is that? I'm seeing them all over LA.
Love
they're
them.
Beautiful.
Yeah, they're beautiful. They're great. They're basic. I had a Model X, which I traded in for this basically, and it's basically their Model X, but it doesn't have FSD. And Ford and GM say we're not going to do FSD. In fact, the Blue Cruise and GM's version of that only work on highways they've already scanned. They don't work on city streets. They're very cautious, as they probably should be. That's where Elon has an advantage. He's willing to play a little fast and loose.
Yeah, he's not conservative at all.
He can roll through stop signs until they tell him not to.
So it's crazy because like on the autopilot on the Tesla, it just rolls through the stop signs, right?
Nitsi is making them turn that off, by the way. You're going to get an update. Sorry.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
It actually makes sense to me, the roll, because you would do that. I mean, it's illegal, and if you get a ticket, even if your Tesla does it. But if the Tesla knows there's nobody else, it can see. Why should I come to a full stop? I'm not going to slow down. I'm going to just pause, but I'm not going to come to a full stop because there's nobody here. I can see that.
Oh, I see.
So that's when it doesn't.
Elon Musk is just making his own rules. That's
the problem.
No, it's
against the law.
It's technically called a California stop. Like it is a California stop.
Yeah.
Like we're in California.
Yeah.
See, that's the problem with machine learning. It will pick up every single proclivity of the human data set that's providing it. So basically, if it learns how to drive from people who also don't look to see if there's a bicyclist coming before they roll through a stop sign, then all self-driving cars will also not look to see if there's a bicyclist.
That's exactly what the complaint was, and why Nitsi changed it is pedestrians and bicyclists. The car is known to miss I mean, I've seen videos of the car, actually, of a Tesla veering toward a bicyclist.
Yeah.
So this is not,
Again,
it's not a solved problem.
Yeah, I just really am offended by how absolutely what disregard for proper testing Tesla has in all of their products, because there are things that they're supposed to do when they're operating in California. They're not supposed to enable full self-driving at all without getting permission from an office in the California state government. They're also the one company that's doing self-driving and high level assisted driving that seems to think that cameras are the only thing that you absolutely need, which is great if they figured out something that absolutely nobody else in the entire industry, theoretical and practical, have figured out. But it actually looks more like they are trying to convince themselves of something, the guess that they made 5 years ago, and trying to stick with it when actually it's not going to work. And this is why I trust so many other companies so much more than I trust Tesla, because if they're playing fast and loose on these things that are so easy to comply with, I have absolutely no faith whatsoever that they're going to work all that hard to make sure that they get to that final critical 2% that's going to be the difference between a faith-filled and trustworthy and safe self-driving experience and one that's just good enough that you can charge someone $1,000 a month for it.
Well, and when I'm saying that, number one is I'm not saying that I would be ready to have a self-driving car today. But when I'm looking, what Apple has to do is look 4 years out. If we look forward 4 years back and assume that we have trajectory of 4 years out, you're going to get to a point where, especially if Apple's doing it, and Apple's probably a little bit more risk adverse than Tesla, that we're going to end up with something that may not work everywhere, but will work in a lot of places. And and again, I don't see myself in my future doing any significant travel if I have to drive. It's like just a waste of time. So until it starts to normalize again, and I think that there's a precipice probably 2026 to 2030 that statistically it will be safer to be in a self-driving car than have a person drive it. I mean, from the average person. I mean, I'm when I drive on the highway, you see people, they're on a cell phone eating a Big Mac while driving. It's not that much safer than a computer's only job is to do this.
Yeah, without turning this into self-driving weekly, there's an interesting field of opinion that says that there are going to be limits to how much more safe a self-driving car system can be over humans, chiefly because when self-driving car performance will cite federal safety guidelines that basically say that 97% of all traffic accidents are driver fault accidents. But the thing is, it doesn't factor in why did that person make the wrong decision. And a lot of people who are experts on how traffic is set up, how streets are set up, how cities are set up, are saying that signage is bonkers. The way that streets are laid out is bonkers, that there's so many instances in which you would be very, very hard pressed to make the right decision more than 80% of the time. And when you make the wrong decision, you don't necessarily always get into a wreck. So basically, you're going to be putting these self-driving car systems into the same failed infrastructure with bad signs that have been knocked down, signs that are being covered by branches, intersections where it is there's a sign that says clearly what you're supposed to do when you come to the stop line, but the layout of the road doesn't make it clear that this is a right-hand turn or whether this road is just sort of forking off to one side. So what light are you stopping for? What light are you turning for? So there's a whole lot left to be proven about this technology, and so that's why I'm not really very bullish on it right now, because right now we're at the Mercury. There's Mercury, Gemini, Apollo. We are barely at the start of Mercury, maybe in the middle of Mercury. We are a long way from landing on the moon.
Yeah. Mark, is there a reason they have a basketball next to your name on AppleTrack.com? Is that your official logo?
That's funny. Just love basketball, right? I tweet a lot about the Lakers, the NBA. By the way, the Lakers are a big disappointment. I can't get over.
Have you seen Winning Time yet on HBO? All about the.
Oh, I haven't had a chance.
It's so
on my
good.
list. I want to watch it. It's good.
Adam
McKay.
God. Yeah, it's an Adam McKay, style thing. They break the fourth wall all the time. They stop and explain things, but I'm really enjoying it. It's pretty good. Yeah. It's all about the '80s Lakers, the Magic Johnson era.
I will prioritize Magic Johnson. What a guy. I ran into him once at a burger shop in LA, and he would just take the time for everyone to take a picture with
Wow,
everyone.
that's neat.
Guy's amazing, and he's not like he has an entourage of bodyguards behind him. It's just everyone loves magic in LA. I'm sad he walked off on the Lakers a couple of years ago, but he got us LeBron James, and maybe he'll be back.
It's pretty much, at least so far, and I think I've only seen 2 episodes because it's slow. It's a week by week thing from HBO, but it's pretty much about Jerry Buss, about him buying it from Cook and a dying team and turning it around. And so I think it's fascinating. If you're a Lakers fan, I think it's probably a must see.
I guess someone else needs to buy the Lakers now because they're a dying team again. Oh my God.
Hey, anyway, 86.4% on AppleTrack.com. You used to, you were a little higher. It goes up and down all the time.
I think that's a little low, to be honest with you.
I think you deserve more. Yeah.
It should be 100%.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. You were right on the monitor. You were right on the studio. I don't know. Some of these, there's a. I guess the hourglass means it remains to be seen.
Yeah.
You got a lot of remains to be seen, which to me is a very good indicator of how prescient you are, how good your sources are. You named March 8th. When Gurman says March 8th, then we go, okay, it's March 8th. We knew that. And I'm excited. So what do you think for WWDC? You think that's when they'll announce the M2 MacBook Air?
Those machines are supposed to come out between May and June, right? So, I'm making the leap here saying that I think that it'll probably be announced at WWDC, right? I mean, if you can hold off 3 weeks to announce it,
you might as well.
Why not?
Yeah.
Might as well. But it may come in a few weeks before, maybe a few weeks after.
A peek at a Mac Pro? Like, stay tuned, guys, it's coming? No, you wouldn't want to do that because you'd kill the sales of the studio. Yeah.
I don't know. Originally, their plan was to announce the Mac Pro at WWDC, but if they shifted away from the M1 core for the Mac Pro to an M2 core, maybe it's something they preview in the fall and release early next year.
M2's interesting.
With the iMac Pro.
I'm wondering if they didn't say a word about M2. Did you think they might March 8th?
I think I thought it was a possibility because from what I've seen, what they're doing now is they're testing the M2 Mac chips against all the apps on the Mac App Store. So what they do before these computers come out is they do testing.
Yeah, we've seen it on Geekbench, right?
Yeah, available apps. And so I have seen from a few developers reached out to me to let me know that they have started seeing the M2 chip in their analytics logs. And the M2 chip in the developer logs is exactly what I reported would be a year and a half ago, which is it's an 8-core CPU, the same as today, and then up to a 10-core GPU. So up to 2 additional cores on the GPU. Now with binning and different configurations, that might fall down to 9, but it's basically an 8-core CPU, 10-core GPU. A little bit faster on the CPU side. And the main change is moving from an A14 infrastructure to an A15.
I'm concerned that might confuse customers. We spent a lot of time talking about why the initial M2 release is more like the initial M1 release than it is like a higher end M1. People might kind of say, oh, but that's the next generation, so it's going to be faster and better. And I think that might be a little confusing to people where, they've been building up, and now we're going to take a steps down and we'll go back up. That's that TikTok thing that Intel does. And I'm wondering
if that's where Apple's marketing will have to come in.
They really have to sell it.
Do some heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because, maybe, just maybe they call the what's actually from a technical perspective an M2, maybe they call that an M1X.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
S.
Yeah.
Or something.
We know it's an A15, but if you call it an M2, that's one better than an M1.
Yeah, I still think they call it the M2, but definitely you raise a really nice point, and it would, I think, either way would make sense.
Yeah.
In the past, they've had the situation where they've had like an A, 14X, right, or an A12X or an A10X, right. So they've done the X's before to sort of differentiate.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
We shall see, right? Apple gets the big bucks for their marketing prowess, right? So we'll see what they come up with and how they phrase it all.
They're very good at that. Among other features in the new iOS, 123 new emoji designs. This is from Emoji
I like the troll. The troll. There's like a whole bunch of them, and then there's a troll.
There's a troll. You need a troll.
Hey, we had a troll.
There's a troll. There's lips that are going. I don't know. What are they doing? They're biting. They're biting them. Is that kind of sexy lips? There's magic beans. There's pregnant men, which would take magic beans. There's some weird stuff. I like the melting emoji, like the melting happy face. Like,
Yeah.
That's the ketamine emoji or something. I don't know what that is.
I always think that updates to emojis is such a great insight into how the world society is changing.
Yes,
it's one of the few true international languages, in that they're designed to communicate concepts and ideas to the exact same audience, to the exact same medium. And so when you see things like all of the internal debate that went down to what's been referred to as the pregnant man emoji, of course, conservative websites were like, "Oh, see, the clueless liberal tech people are trying to enforce their will." It's there. I don't know if you read all the conversation that went in on the commission about that.
Yeah, because we should say Apple does not decide this. This comes from the Unicode consortium, from the Emoji Commission.
Yeah. And they actually,
but they can customize them.
Yes, all they get is a verbal description and a suggestion, and then they make it their own.
This is exactly why they came out with this new edition, because after the first wave of emoji, once they come out with standards, one of the standards that they defined was that there are no men or women emoji. There are people emoji, and then male or female.
So it's
is
the
a
pregnant person.
Right. So someone pointed out that, well, gee, we have pregnant woman, which is one of the original emoji. What do we do about this? Do we officially codify this as an exception to that rule? Do we expand the rule? Do we redefine it as person with expanded belly? So it was approved.
It was approved in 2021 September as part of Emoji 14, and Emojipedia is quick to point out, sometimes used in jest to represent feeling too full after overeating, as in a food baby. Here's Apple's rendition.
Yeah,
Google's.
I thought it was like
Twitter's.
When I first saw it, I was like, I have deli belly.
Deli belly.
Beer belly.
Yeah,
I'll be using that emoji a lot. That's going to be a big one for me. They've changed. They've added some new smiley faces, including the melty face, peekaboo.
Seeing if you had the one with the hand over its face and the deli belly. So then it's
whoops. That's a way of saying oops.
Another interesting tweak. Now the shaking hands emoji, you can change the skin color of each of the hands, not just as a pair.
Oh, I really like that. Yeah, notice. So you can have, say, a black and white hand shaking hands. I think that's really cool. It's just more, as you say, Andy, it's more expressive. It's about expressive. The face holding back tears, which is, I call the anime emoji, or the keen emoji. I like the sideways mouth. That's face with diagonal mouth. Let's see what else. We have face with open eyes and hand over mouth. That's Apple actually was the inspiration for that, replacing face with hand over mouth. As you mentioned, there's a troll. What do they call these lips?
Troll.
There's a troll. It's cute. I want to know what they call these lips, though. The troll emoji's design was changed between the release of 15.4 beta and today's release. As you can see, it's smiling now. In the beta, the nose was so big you couldn't tell if it was grimacing, smiling, growling. Now we know they've shrunk the nose, and you can see it's
smiling in smug self-satisfaction.
It's a happy troll.
Just think about how many meetings there were to make that troll. That's it's a whole team. There's like a whole team, and there's like a guy that has to build a 3D model of it, and there's lots of things there.
We now have some Italian hand gestures.
I didn't quite get the one that is it the snapping the finger
It's called hand with index finger and thumb crossed, and I guess it just depends where you're from. The gesture known as a finger heart was popularized in the 2010s by South Korean celebrities, K-pop stars, actors, comedians. It can also be used. You've seen this, where you're rubbing the two fingers together like money, right?
Money, okay.
To indicate luxury or an expensive item.
All right.
So as Andy points out, it's just expressive. And actually, if you look at Apple's rendering of it is not quite as expressive as Google's. Google knows what money is. Google's really, I feel like Google's almost, really, they should put little lines as the fingers are moving or something.
Well,
like
if there's one company that understands the value of communicating to people with fingers crossed, it's going to be Google. So it's like 20 words for snow.
Heart hands. We have heart hands now, the influencer's favorite gesture. As you pointed out, Andy, you can vary the skin tone, which is really great in the handshakes.
I think the green with like 3 fingers would be really popular.
Oh, yeah. You should have a Shrek hand. Yeah. Let's see. What else? There's magic beans.
What's the hand with the eye?
That's like a Hindu thing, right? What is that? Let's see. They've got coral, lotus, empty nest with eggs.
It's a Hamsa. It's from Judaism.
Hamsa. Oh, it's Judaism. It's a Hamsa.
Yeah.
All right. A blue hand with an eye in the center. The Hamsa, ancient symbol, important to multiple religions, including Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, and Christianity, represents luck, protection, guidance, feminine power, and faith. It's kind of a cool thing. I don't know.
It's funny. Apple got it right because the Hamsa, like when you look at it in real life, it looks sort of like the Apple one, whereas the Google and the Twitter ones, it's not. It's not what it looks like.
Maybe they're doing
Everyone else went way too far.
They're doing the Buddhist one.
Yeah, they went. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah.
So that's interesting.
I don't know.
I didn't realize it was a Judaica. That's interesting. There's a crutch. There is a Apple ID card. I don't know why you'd need that. Joe Appleseed. There's an equality sign. There's bubbles. Playground slide. Wheel. Ring buoy. X-ray. Heavy equals sign. That's called the heavy equals sign. Of course, you have equals signs. You don't need one specially. But equals, there already apparently was a heavy multiply, heavy plus, heavy minus, and heavy divide, man. So now there's a heavy equals. Google even gave it a little highlighting there. Anyway, you'll get that with iOS 15.4. The other thing, I was surprised I had to redo Face ID on my phone. And that's because now a little late, but better late than never, Face ID works with a mask. But apparently they have to redo it so that they really pay attention to your eyes. In fact, they give you a second option to do it with glasses, and they say you should do it with every kind of glasses that you wear, every pair except sunglasses. It won't work. So get ready when you go to 15.4 on your iPhone or your iPad, I guess, if you use Face ID on that. You'll have to redo the Face ID so that, I don't know, so that you can use it. I haven't tried it yet. I stopped wearing masks. So I don't know. Share play sessions can be initiated directly from supported apps in FaceTime. Siri has a new voice. Have you tried the new voice yet? We played it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
I've switched. We'll see. I've switched. I was using American Voice 3. I'm now using.
Hi, I'm Siri. Choose the voice you'd like me to use.
The non-gendered Voice 5.
I'm Siri.
Less gendered is
Choose the voice you'd like me to use.
Yeah. They actually said they got somebody from the LGBTQ community, plus community, to record that.
Hi, I'm Siri. Choose the voice you'd like me to use.
I'm going to use that. I don't want it to sound like anything, like a human. So I think that's appropriate.
Well, it sounds human. Just it's another variant. But my only qualm always is that I accidentally changed the voice on my Google Assistant a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. Actually, when I was testing things out for a story based on exactly what we're talking about, and I'm like, it was so freaky, and I'm like, I should keep this. I should keep this new voice for a day just to prove that I'm not going to get freaked out by this. And it's like, why? It really was exactly like having like my regular assistant has a week off for vacation, and the temp agency sent someone else in, and it's like, hi, I'm Andy. I'm going to want to be woken up at 8:30 a.m. and remind me that I'm sous videing something, and I was tensing up because I'm not used to talking to this voice.
They've also fixed in my opinion, single most annoying thing about Siri. If she doesn't have an internet connection and you ask her what time it is, she says, "Hold on, wait a minute." I'm thinking. I can't tell you right now. So they've this is a feature in iOS 15.4. Siri can provide time and date information while offline, but only on an iPhone XS, XR, 11, or newer. So the older iPhones, I'm sorry, Siri still doesn't know. what time it is.
It's not like Siri could constantly be checking a clock every once in a while and just making sure she's accurate, and then be able to come back and just tell it to you. I mean,
it's just a thing, you know. If you're in the EU, you can now use the digital COVID certificates in your wallet, as we have been doing in the United States. That's actually really nice. I stopped carrying that dog-eared vaccine card around with me, so far I haven't had to show it at all. Nobody even cares anymore. But if I ever do, I'll have it in my Apple Wallet, which is nice. There are a bunch of other things. A podcast app adds episode filters for seasons, unplayed, played, saved, or downloaded, like everybody else, finally. You can manage your iCloud custom email domains from settings. Emergency SOS settings have changed to use call withhold. My watch decided I had taken a terrible fall the other day, and it's lucky I felt it, because it was, if I hadn't canceled it, would have called 911, and I think it was just the door closing behind me. It was the slamming door. So anyway, there's a bunch of other things. Big update in iOS 15.4, iPadOS 15.4. I presume also tvOS and watchOS and all that will be updated as well. Take a little break. We'll have more. Mark Gurman is our very special guest. Great to have him from Bloomberg's Power On newsletter, which you must subscribe to if you don't already. At Mark Gurman. Were you just doing a Hamsa for us? Was that your Hamsa?
Just, I guess sort of.
Yeah, you kind of were.
It's a wave to the audience. Hi, everyone. Glad to be here with the crew, and
he can do a
I'm glad
Hamsa.
Renee's off this week, so I could fill in. So
it's so
it'd be nice
great
to join again with Renee too. So
hey, you know what? Be my guest anytime you want to be on. We will make sure you come on. We would love having you on here.
We can coordinate when there's a big story coming.
Let's do that. It's really great to have Mark Gurman on. Also, Andy Ihnatko from WGBH in Boston, of course. I was just looking at older shows. You've been on more than 10 years now. You've been part of MacBreak Weekly. When did you start? Do you remember?
We started at C. So I don't know whether
we started at C. Now, you might, when you're listening to the show, wonder, what the hell is he talking about? In a boat at sea.
Yes, international waters, so we could speak openly without Apple punishing us.
One of those geek cruises, one of those, what do they call them, the Mac cruises?
Yep, it was a nerd, oh, God.
It was a geek cruise.
Geek cruise, yeah.
Yeah. Mac Mania. Mac Mania, that's what they call them.
Combined Mac, Unix, and Star Trek cruise. 3 very interesting groups at the karaoke parts.
So that's probably 2008, 2009, something like that.
Yeah.
Long time. And, of course, the man who founded MacBreak way back when. Hey, he's got a Hamsa. He just drew an eyeball on his hand. It's good Hamsa. Nice job.
It was horrible.
So that's how
I don't have a Sharpie.
So that's how they calculated the staff of Ra.
Yeah, exactly.
Very nice.
Sorry, I just had to do it.
Way back in 2007, we did video versions. In fact, we have them still on our site, of MacBreak, hosted by Leo Laporte, Kendra Aramoto, Emery Wells, who's now a billionaire, by the way, Merlin Mann, Alex Lindsay, and lots of other people, including Sal Segoyan, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah. And then I said, can we do an audio version? We'll call it MacBreak Weekly so people know the difference. And the rest is history. Yeah. I think you've been with us since before the beginning, that means. And, of course, 090.media is where he goes to like 5 minutes a day, I don't know, to do his job, his day job. There's work there?
It's still 80 hours a week. It's just on top of...
On top of another 80 hours a week for office hours.
I only spend 30 hours a week on office hours.
But
relaxed.
Let's point out office hours is 24/7 now, right?
It is. We did it's funny. So we talked about IceCast serving.
Which we use. Love IceCast.
Yeah. But how to build the IceCast server. So that was the second hour. And then eventually what happens with us is there'll be an after hours, which is what runs 21 hours a day, a session where we all build one together. Like, let's build an IceCast server together and we'll all get on AWS or whatever, Linode.
Can you just slow down? Because I'm already overwhelmed by the amount of content you do and I can't keep up. And
it's just, I got to say, it's just a lot of fun. Like I'm sure you have this kind of the same experience, but I get to hang out every morning with
it's fabulous.
Like some of the smartest people in the world.
It's the real reason I do this show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for you guys. Anyway, great to have all three of you. More to come with our panel this week. But first, a word from our sponsor, Zocdoc. This is a very timely product, a Zocdoc. Zocdoc is a doctor that you can find in an app. It's a free app that shows you doctors with their reviews, which, doctors for a long time kind of resisted that. They take your insurance. They're available when you need them. Zocdoc, you got to know about this. There's some amazing doctors out there. Really, the only ones you care about, I care about, are the ones who will take your insurance. With Zocdoc, you can focus on doctors who are in-network, putting you on the path to see a doc who's right for you. No more wasting time hunting down Aunt Shirley's cash-only chiropractor or the dentist your coworker recommended who turns out to be out of your network and not accepting new patients anyway. No one knows what you're looking for in a doctor better than you, and no one's better at giving you the tools to find the perfect doctor than Zocdoc, Z-O-C-D-O-C. Folks who created Zocdoc found all the major pain points in healthcare, all the things that weren't working. They said, we can do better. They made booking a great doctor surprisingly pain-free. And you know what? That's what you want with a doctor, is pain-free. Get Zocdoc right now. Go to Zocdoc.com. You can actually do it on the web. Read up on local doctors. Get verified patient reviews. That's, to me, a huge benefit. Because, honestly, I want to know, how patients feel about their doctor. You see what other real humans have to say about their visits so that when you walk into the doctor's office, you're set up to see somebody in your network, takes your insurance, who gets you patients like. I think it's about time we had ratings for doctors. Go to zocdoc.com. Choose a time slot. Whether you want to see the doctor in person, you can do video visits, of course. Just like that, you're booked. Find the doctor right for you. Book an appointment that works for your schedule. Every month, millions of people use Zocdoc. It could be your go-to whenever you need to find and book a doctor, especially if you're traveling, if you're in a strange city. In the chaotic world of healthcare, let Zocdoc be your trusted guide to find a quality doctor in a way that's surprisingly pain-free. Get your docs in a row. Get it? Go to Zocdoc.com/MacBreak. You can download the app for free. Start your search for a top-rated doctor today. Many available within 24 hours. Now, it's not emergency care, of course, but if you need somebody fast, you can often get one. Zocdoc.com/MacBreak. Isn't it the case we always wait until we need somebody fast? Like I broke my leg 3 weeks ago, but it's really starting to hurt now. Zocdoc.com/MacBreak. Thank you, Zocdoc, for supporting MacBreak Weekly. And thank you, MacBreak Weekly listeners and viewers, for supporting us by using that special address, Zocdoc.com/MacBreak. Are you going to get a Mac Studio?
I'm not going to get a Mac Studio. I'm actually not going to get anything from this Apple event.
Really?
Funny enough, right? I know it's a rarity for me, but yeah, I'll be. I just got this MacBook Pro at the end of the year, and I feel like if I were buying anything from this event, I'd just be basically throwing money away because there's absolutely nothing I need from it. Nothing.
Right.
So I'm happy to have what I have.
We ordered. It was funny because this doesn't usually happen. The store went online before Tim Cook had left the stage on Tuesday.
Really?
And
I missed that.
I know. Somebody said it in the chat room, and I went, oh! And I immediately went in and ordered a maxed out studio for our review purposes and stuff. And it's coming Friday. Everything I ordered after that. Yes, everything I ordered after that's coming, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
What about the monitor? Did you order the monitor?
Yeah, but I didn't order it at the same time, and I wish I had now. When
does it come? April?
I was
May?
torn. Yeah, I was torn about the monitor. Let me check. Because if I'd thought about it, I would order it at the same time. Probably would also have been getting that in a timely fashion. So the studio is coming. Order in progress. The studio display is coming April 7th. I ordered 2 Mac Studios. I ended up going back in and ordering one lower end one, the $21.99 version. That's coming March 30th. And then Lisa's fancy Ultra $4,000 Mac Studio is preparing to ship, arriving Friday. Yep. Are you married, Mark?
I'm not married, but I have a
Steady girl.
Serious girlfriend.
Yeah.
Maybe she's watching.
Yeah. So
Hi.
little tip, little advice, little piece of advice. Always get them the best.
I always try to. She has a beautiful
Nice.
new necklace. So,
Good man.
Very happy with
Good
with
man.
her,
Jewelry is always a winning recipe, I find.
Yeah. Let's talk about this because you raise a good point. I'm trying to think, what new Apple products will I get this year? I know it sounds kind of nerdy, but this is the stuff I love. Right? I just love opening the new stuff. I'm a total fanboy. Okay, the iPhone for sure. I'll probably get the big one.
You'll get the 14 when it comes out.
Yeah.
What do you expect that'll be new and exciting and different about the 14 that'll make you want one so bad?
So it'll have this, it'll make me want one so bad just because it's shiny, new, and made by Apple. But in terms of, what will be marketed, probably the satellite texting feature, which.
So wait a minute. Now, okay,
guy.
so that was one of those rumors. It's going to have satellite phone. And then the conclusion I came to is that was dumped by somebody who owns one of these companies that just wanted the stock. It was a pump and dump. You think there actually is going to be a satellite capability in this phone?
I think Apple's working on it, and they have a whole team working on various different satellite initiatives.
So it's real.
They started this team in 2017. It's run by two guys who used to run Google's satellite internet division, a guy named Mike Trella, another guy named John Fennick. And they have a team of people working on stuff. They've explored building their own satellites. They explored using people's existing satellite infrastructure to beam internet to Apple devices. The latest variation of their work is satellite-based texting and SOS. And this
kind of like a spot tracker or something like that. So if you're out of phone range, you can ask for help anyway.
Yeah, but it's not to make calls. It's for short texts, like very short texts. And if you're, in a boat accident or a plane crash.
Now, the product code name is reportedly Stewie. Do you have to talk like this to do it?
You don't have to talk like this to do it.
Cool Whip. Okay.
You actually sound just like him. But what I've been trying to figure out for the last year since I first heard about this is, what does the code name mean? What does that mean? Like, what does Stewie have to do with the satellite? What, does he look like a satellite dish?
Yes, he does. He's got a football head.
Okay, so yeah, that's what I thought it was. He looks like a satellite dish. Okay, so that's why it's called Stewie. But anyways, they've had this thing developed from a software standpoint already for months. This thing's ready to go. It's just about if they're going to have the correct hardware in this year's model or next year's model.
It seems to be a very limited appeal feature, but I guess, unless you think
anything
Apple wants to replace the cell phone.
sheet.
Yeah, anything they can add, I guess you're right.
It makes more sense to me for an Apple Watch to have that SOS feature.
Yes.
So, but I think that
those spot
watch
watches
is too small, though.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There was a rumor, I don't know what you think about this, that they would not, in fact, offer the newest processor in the regular iPhone 14. You'd have to get a Pro Max to get the...
Yeah. That was from Quo, and it makes a lot of sense to me. It's no different than the fact that the MacBook Air will have an M2 and the MacBook Pro will have an M1 Pro.
Except they've never done that with an iPhone. Pro. They've always had a new generation.
They've always had a new generation in their Apple Silicon history and their own custom chip history. So this will be the first time that they're not going to upgrade it. I think this may have to do with the chip shortage in some respects.
Which would make sense. Or
given that they have that chip shortage qualifier right now, this is a good time as any to actually make that transition because the market is used to getting those new chips. The A15 is also very speedy, very fast. They just added the A15 to the iPhone SE this year, and it's not that old. So I don't know. It all adds up to me. I think that's going to be true. I haven't heard it personally, but it rings true to me in terms of their latest strategy. Also,
no more iPhone Mini, I hear. Is that what you hear?
iPhone Mini is gone. They decided like 2 years ago to stop making the iPhone Mini because nobody was buying the iPhone 12 Mini.
Right.
Right from the gate, they knew they weren't going to be able to do that. They couldn't discontinue it in time to not include it for the iPhone 13 line because those plans were already in place. It's kind of hard to just cancel a phone at the last minute, right? There won't be an iPhone 14 Mini. What they're going to do is they're going to have two 6.1-inch models, two 6.7-inch models. And I think that the iPhone 14 Max, not the Pro Max, the regular 14 Max, could just be one of the best all-time selling iPhones ever. Getting that bigger screen for that lower price, I think it's going to be fantastic.
Interesting.
I'll probably get the Pro Max, but certainly being able to offer a 6.7-inch phone at that price point, probably at an $899 type of price point or $799 price point, fairly compelling in my view. And, I think we're going to have those that style of 4 iPhones. So a big and a small, regular and Pro. And then eventually we'll get like an iPhone Ultra that sits on top of the entire lineup that does something neat and cool, whether that's a foldable or a different type of display or something, right? Just like Samsung is doing.
Go ahead. What's your take on the camera resolution?
On the new iPhones, I don't know. I think I saw a rumor out there that it would be a 48 megapixel camera, but I'm not sure how that equates to resolution and such. It's funny. Apple has been the company for years that used to say, oh, we don't talk about specs. We don't care about speeds and feeds. We don't talk about this or that because we let the products and their capabilities speak for themselves. Well, this is now also the company that's been touting the M1 Ultra that had a whole event over processors. They put the RAM on their website now for the iPads,
Isn't
right?
that interesting?
You're seeing a shift here.
Yeah.
You're seeing a shift here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they have their opinions until it's no longer convenient for them.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Now that getting into the speeds and feeds and the numbers game is convenient for them, their opinion has shifted.
Hey, that's how I work too. I can understand that.
That's how any human being works.
You
right?
have your opinions so they don't work anymore. Yeah.
Well, like sometimes I'll sit back and maybe criticize a decision Apple has made or think I'm about to criticize a decision Apple's made. And then I think about it. It's like, what the hell would I be doing if that was my decision, right? I'd be doing the same thing. You got to do what's best for your company and best for yourself. And you got to present, but you got to put your best foot forward. So.
Let's see what else. Shenzhen lockdown. Is that going to, because of COVID, some concerns about increased supply chain problems in the fall?
So here's the interesting thing. So that Shenzhen lockdown only runs through March 20th. Now, as we all know, because we were here 2 years ago, original COVID, it was like, we're going to shut down for a week, we're going to shut down for 2 weeks, we're going to do this, we're going to do that for a few days. And then look what happened. We've been through this for 2 years, right? So right now it's Shenzhen. Right now it's 1 week. Apple has multiple iPhone factories in China. This factory in Shenzhen is actually their smallest one.
Oh, I didn't know that.
One of their smaller ones.
Oh, I thought that's where they were all made.
That's not the king. That's not the king of their factories, right? They have a factory that people call iPhone City. That's up and running.
Okay.
Good news is we're 3 to 6 months away from iPhone 14 mass production. And who knows? I think we'll be okay. I think this is going to go longer than March 20th, but I don't think this is going to hurt Apple in the short term or the long term. So,
what other Apple products are you going to be buying?
M2 iPad Pro. I want to see if I can get my iPad Pro.
Come on, the iPad Pro is already vastly overpowered with an M1 in it. You need an M2 in it?
Listen, I don't have the M1 version, right? And I want the MagSafe charging, and I want the new design and all that.
Thunderbolt 4 maybe would be nice.
Yeah. And so, there is reason to get. So
that. You used the iPad Pro as your main work machine, you didn't feel constrained by that. You were able to.
I didn't feel constrained by it. Now that I have a MacBook Pro for comparison, though, I do feel constrained. I'm telling you. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but like, I couldn't really use the Intel 16-inch MacBook Pro for work because I have tons of web tabs open, and it wasn't very efficient. Yep. It was like a $3,000 paperweight.
I just got the Pro, the M1 Pro. In a 14-inch, not a 16, and it's the best laptop I've ever had. It's mind-boggling in every respect.
It's great.
They really did a great job. Yeah,
changed the game.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know video editors who use it, and they had a MacBook Air non-M1 previously, and they're like, this M1 Pro, 14-inch MacBook Pro, I can do what it took me 8 hours in 4.
So when does that get updated? Is that the fall?
Which one? The MacBook Pros?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think they'll be updated.
Not till next year.
I think they'll be updated sometime next year. Okay. Yeah, they're on a 1.5 to 2 year cadence.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if you have an M1 Pro or Max, that's good. You'll be all right for a year or two.
I wouldn't, if you're in the market today to buy a MacBook Pro,
wouldn't hesitate.
I'd probably hesitate unless we're talking about the base 13-inch MacBook Pro, which will be refreshed.
Right.
Soon.
That's going to be the M2 or M1X, whatever they end up calling that. That's that, exactly. And the MacBook Air will be updated. Will the M1 Mac Mini be updated as well?
So the Mac Mini will become an M2 Mac Mini. I think that'll be either late this year or sometime next year.
So we'll start to see a kind of consistent cadence then.
They'll get there, right?
Low
They
end,
got the
high
hard
end, low
ones
end, high
done,
end.
right?
Yeah.
They got the difficult ones done. And going from M1 to M2 across the whole line, that's not the big deal. The big deal was getting the first M1s out. And so you'll see more regularity in the future. There'll be an update to the 24-inch iMac as well. With the,
that makes
the
sense.
M2. There'll be M2 versions of the Mac Studio.
So help Alex Lindsay out here, because he wants to know if he should buy some Studios or should he wait for the Mac Pro. What are you predicting for the Mac Pro?
Well, the Mac Pro will just essentially be double the performance of the Mac Studio. So the Mac Studio, I believe, is...
Will it be the Ultra Max? The M1 Ultra Max?
If they're waiting out the M2 line for the Mac Pro, I think it'll be the M2
Extreme.
That's my guess.
M2 Extreme.
As Renee would say, that's my guess.
Okay.
So,
okay.
I've already bought an Ultra. I'm waiting. I'm going to buy a Mac Pro. I got a smaller Ultra because I plan to get a Mac Pro.
Is this Studio the small Mac Pro we were hearing rumors about, or will there be a little cheese grater? Because I would love a little cheese grater.
Well, there's both. It's both.
There will be
right?
both.
Yeah, this is the small Mac Pro, and then the new Mac Pro is smaller than the current Mac Pro. My questions: interchangeability, modularity. What kind of parts are you going to be able to interchange? Right. What are you going to be able to upgrade?
There's a reason why you have a big case.
There's a reason why you have a big case.
But we no longer support third-party graphics cards, which are the primary reason you had that giant case.
But also adding and removing RAM, putting in more SSDs and hard drives and all that, right? So what is really the differentiator between a Mac Studio and a Mac Pro? Well, I believe it's going to be the performance. Expandability. But the question is, what is the expandability? They would have to develop a whole new set of frameworks and technologies to make their custom silicon expandable.
Right.
Question is, are they going to do that?
That's very, or just do it over Thunderbolt 4, in which case it doesn't need to be in the case.
Right. So I don't know, but I don't see the purpose unless the Mac Pro, their only selling point is that it's double the performance of the Mac Studio, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing, right?
It's interesting to see the lesson they learned from the trash can Mac, which they finally had to admit, because the cooling system is just not adequate, we cannot upgrade. So it's clear the Mac Studio, it's more than half cooling system.
Basically, it's a cooling system.
It's a cooling
with an
system.
iPhone chip.
Yeah.
It's an A13 powered cooling system.
Did you know ahead of time there was going to be copper and aluminum, or did you? Was that a surprise when that came out?
So I knew there would be two thermal versions because of the power differences. I didn't know that it would be a 2-pound difference.
That's a big difference. 2 pounds.
That's a big difference, right? Yeah. So I didn't realize that it would be that much of a weight difference.
And I think Jean-Louis Gasset kind of got it wrong in his Monday note, because he was speculating about the 2-pound difference, even though maybe he wrote his Monday note before he released it. He released it a couple of days ago. We knew by then that the 2-pound difference was because of the copper versus aluminum. He had some other kind of wild speculation about that. Okay, what other things? Let's see. You're going to buy an Apple car. We know that, Mark.
That's many years away. But the Apple Watch.
Apple Watch.
So
now, that's another one where I
Watches.
didn't bother with the Series 7 because my Series 6 is fine. Series 8 I would probably do. I think I'm starting to get to the point where I'll skip a year every year.
For the Apple Watches, they're making it pretty easy to start skipping a year, if not 2 years, right? I mean, the Apple Watch Series 4, that was the big one, and that was in 2018, right? And so, I got to imagine the Series 8 will be pretty impressive this year. But on the other hand, who cares? They're so far ahead. They're basically, like, people like to say, oh, Apple's in a league of its own, right? But, like, they are literally in a league of their own. I'm not really sure. I can't name another smartwatch maker at this point with any relevancy. I mean, you have Fitbit lighting on fire on people's arms at this point.
Yeah, that's not a good look. Tim Cook, perhaps speaking out of school, at one point talked about, blood sugar testing without, in non-invasive blood sugar testing with an Apple Watch, and that has not materialized. Is that coming? It seems to me that's something that's much harder to do than anybody thought.
They've actually been working on that since 2013, 2014.
Sure, because if they can do it, it's huge.
Yeah, they've been working on it for a decade now.
Yeah.
I don't see it happening for at least 3 to 5 more years. Yeah. So next will be body temperature, then blood pressure, then blood sugar.
Blood pressure would be good. Yeah. There's almost 40 million Americans who have diabetes. So that's 40 million Americans who would immediately buy an Apple Watch if they didn't have to prick their skin. Huge. So that's obviously Apple, and everybody else is saying, that's the
holy grail.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a big business if we can solve that one. All right. Let's see. I think, boy, we have covered the rumor mill here. Big victories for Apple TV shows in its awards season. Ted Lasso got a Critics' Choice Award. Congratulations. Ted Lasso is just, rolling it up. Best comedy, lead actor Jason Sudeikis. Let's see, there were the BAFTAs, there were the SAG Awards, but it's the big ones are, for Apple is probably going to be the Oscars, where Coda is nominated for Best Picture. It's interesting how the streamers now are sort of totally dominating in these awards.
They have more money.
Yeah.
Like they have all the money.
They're doing better stuff, frankly.
They're hiring all the talent. Like that's the thing it's just that's where all the money is right
There's a limited set of people who can make Oscar quality films. And Steven Spielberg notwithstanding, a lot of them are going to streaming.
Also, I think one of the strengths that they have is that they don't have to they don't have to boast about viewership numbers to advertisers or anybody else. So they can simply they can run a show like Ted Lasso simply because they have data that says that the projected audience for this matches with our audience at Apple TV, or we'd like to work with these people, or this would in some way be profitable for us. So that means they're taking more risks, so that they're not doing things like what's the network show I saw ads for where it's basically setting up huge like domino stacks with explosions and flashing lights, and it's like, that's what the networks are down to.
They are down to dominoes.
Well,
dominoes with like
dominoes.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah.
I mean, they're playing a
bright,
much larger
flat colors,
game.
flashing lights. Yeah.
Well, they're going low end, right? They're going after the mainstream market.
Well, here's the thing: is they're going after. What's interesting is that a lot of the streamers are going after things that you would never spend money on in a broadcast environment, and then they're throwing that money at it. Because they can. This is a matter of the subscription model is so much better than a retail model or even an advertising model. It's a much better model to make money. And because but you do have to keep people wanting whatever's the next thing. And so I think that's been but like Netflix has to serve all these different audiences. So like you have their movies, which are fine. But you also have, Chef's Table, which is a completely different, like you would never put that on a broadcast,
right?
But it's like one of my favorite Netflix shows ever. And so but I think that the interesting thing there is that there's also a much lower threshold of what people think is good and what they think is okay. If I spent a ticket to go to see Red Notice, I think that was the Ryan Reynolds,
movie.
rock. If I had spent a ticket on that, I would have been really upset.
Yeah.
But on Netflix, I was like, it was okay. I ate some popcorn. We hang out. It was fine. I went with very, very low expectations. I didn't have to pay anything for it. I watched it at home. So there's the entire model of making content.
That's a good point.
Is evolving, where I can do something that people aren't gonna. They don't have to get out of. They literally don't have to get out of bed to watch what you're making. And so that's a very different kind of content play than getting people to go spend, $100 for a family of 4 to go watch your movie,
Andy, do you think Domino Masters is the cop rock of the 21st century?
At least they're singing and dancing in cop rock. I'm not sure if there are better people on YouTube doing dominoes,
Teams incorporate a sports night theme and custom elements into their Rube Goldberg-style topples in Domino Masters. Wow.
I mean, the problem is that with a lot of broadcasters, I can just see and maybe it's because I work in the industry, but I can just see the model. Like I can see that literally, like they're going to do this.
Well, you're our expert. Yeah.
And so you're just kind of like, and so I'm just, it's a tired format, and again, when you get rid of commercials, this is the other thing with streamers is that when you don't have commercials, you don't have to figure out how you build up Act 1 to a point where everyone wants to go to Act 2 and then give them a commercial break, or build up
it
toward.
changes how you make
so there's
the show. Exactly.
Oh yeah, because there's all these, or even the whole series. So for instance, when you're not like Marvel, I've decided is I'm going to give you 6 to 8 episodes. The first one's going to be amazing. Then I'm going to save money on 3 and 4 and 5. And then I'm going to make sure you leave going, this was amazing. And so all the money is spent on the 2 humps. It's an entirely different model than what we've seen in the past. By
the way, just so you know, get the popcorn ready because Netflix has announced not 1 but 2 sequels to Red Notice.
Right. It was the most viewed thing they've ever done.
It's horrible. It was so bad.
Well, the thing is that what they did, this is classic Netflix. They just picked people there's a lot of people.
That's why I watched it. It had Ryan Reynolds,
3 people,
Dwayne Johnson, Gal Gadot.
Really like.
That's why I watched it.
I was like, yeah, exactly. I was like, how bad can it be?
Pretty bad.
And it was bad, but it was really fun. It was good, clean fun.
Good, clean fun.
Yeah, people.
How about Ben Stiller's Severance? Severance. Have you been watching that on Apple TV?
I haven't had time.
I've been watching it. I'm not sure yet. It's a very sterile show because the premise is that people are so desperate for work, they're willing to work in a top secret facility, but basically have their personality divided in 2 so that the person you have your day persona, which it works, and then your nighttime persona, which doesn't work, and neither knows what the other one's doing, which is a creepy premise. But a lot of it takes place in this super sterile basement facility. Of course, it was probably very cheap to shoot. I don't think anything that Apple does is cheap to shoot. I don't think they're saving money anywhere. I still feel like Apple is struggling somehow, and I don't know why. But every time I watch something on Apple, Lisa says this too. It's like, it's not quite.
I think it's too much Brussels sprouts. For me, there's too much Brussels sprouts in Apple stuff.
That's why Ted Lasso's a hit, right? No Brussels, or is there Brussels sprouts in Ted Lasso? There's shortbread cookies.
It's
kind of Brussels sprouty. I know what you're saying.
It's all good for me, and it's like all the Apple stuff is always good for me, and I'm just like sometimes I just just want to watch a show and not be told what I should think, and I'm just like so I have to admit that I have not been a big fan of pretty much all of the Apple stuff except for Tiny Planet. Or whatever they call them.
You love that show, I know.
I love that show. It's great. So in the documentary, the ones with the producer, I can't think of his name right now, but there's a whole thing where they break down the beat machines and how music gets made.
Oh, the music documentary is great
with Mark Ronson. And that, So those ones I think are real. I'm really into documentaries. So I like those. The fiction stuff that Apple's done, I've not watched more than I think a half an episode of anything. I get halfway through it and I'm like, ugh,
actually,
I'm not gonna go somewhere else.
It seems to me Apple's model is the Red Notice model. Nothing's terrible, but when you put together all the services, it's like you've got Dwayne Johnson, Gal Gadot, and Ryan Reynolds.
It is, but it's all together. It feels like I feel like there was some conversation internally that we're going to create a higher level of content that has more meaning and is more meaningful and more whatever. Yeah. And when I'm watching passive TV, I want to be passive. Right. I have to admit that I'm not I don't need a higher order of things. If I'm watching a fictional thing, I just just want to watch Born Identity. Yeah. Just it's.
All right, let's wrap it up. We're going to have our picks of the week coming up in just a bit. Boy, it's been a pleasure having you, Mark Gurman, with us.
Thanks for having me.
I will invite you back, and you can come on anytime, as many times as you want. But next time there's a story that you got a scoop on or whatever, we will bring you back. Our picks of the week coming up in just a second. Let's start the pick of the week with our guest of the week, Mark Gurman, Bloomberg's Mark Gurman. I think you've got a pretty good pick.
My pick is Power On.
Yes.
Got to do it. Would love if anyone would subscribe. There is a free version as well, and also there is a subscriber version that comes as part of the larger Bloomberg subscription. So I'd encourage you to sign up for pay or free. And what I like to do is I like to give some scoops or hot takes every Sunday. every Sunday morning. And then there's definitely a lot of links to other articles that we've written, more perspectives on things. And there's always some juicy information about Apple and Peloton and Amazon, whatever, trickled throughout the newsletter. There's a Q&A section as well. The newsletter's been a lot of fun so far. The subscribers are going quickly, and I would encourage anyone to, be part of Power On. And there's a lot more to come.
It's a good move. It was a very good move for Bloomberg to see this as a way to monetize you. And I'm, by the way, right now, special deal, 99 cents a month, unlimited digital access on Bloomberg.com and the Bloomberg app. So that's a
great deal.
Considerable reduction. Now that's only for the first year, but hey, take it. Take it.
Thanks, Leo. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here, Mark.
Thank you for having me.
Really,
Seriously,
really appreciate it. You're great. Andy Ihnatko, pick of the week.
My pick of the week is more of a tip, and tip/pick of the week is your state consumer laws. they consumer protection laws. They bear inspection for your individual state, and I'll tell you why. I was reading a thread on Reddit about this person who was having problems with an M1 MacBook Air. That was just, it's one of those things where you just get a bum device and it just keeps breaking, and they keep trying to fix it, and it breaks again, they fix it again, and it breaks again, and then it's out of warranty and they won't fix it anymore. But he lives in the state of Maine, so he stated Maine has a really powerful implied warranty law that says that, and we're reading it directly from the Office of the Maine Attorney General website, the Maine implied warranty is a little-known law that protects Maine consumers from being sold seriously defective items. It can be an unfair trade practice, and they've capitalized unfair trade practice because it's a legal definition, to refuse to honor the Maine implied warranty law within 4 years of sale. The basic test for possible implied warranty violations is as follows. So if A, the item is seriously defective, truly, if this laptop is not working, yeah, that's seriously defective. 2, if the consumer did not damage the item, so as long as it wasn't, dunked in paint or something. Number 3, the item is still within its useful life and is not simply worn out. And laptops are supposed to last 4 years or more, no problem there. So he finally got down to brass tacks, cited the Maine implied warranty law, and like the manager of the Apple store or whatever said, yeah, okay, that's fine, we're good, we'll fix it. And I've been since then. I've been looking around about this stuff, and yeah, it's very, very likely that if you cite this law, either the manager of whatever store it is that sold you this thing is gonna challenge you on it, or gonna have to look it up. In which case, you're gonna have to educate them, or someone else has put on the one true ring, turned invisible, and they realize, okay, at this point, it's a lot easier for us to, before they get the state attorney general's office involved in here, because remember that the state attorney general's office is also very, very happy to help you enforce those laws. So just you write a letter that basically freezes the countdown of 4 years, so that even if it's like 6 years, but you've been trying to get them to do this for the past 3 years, you still can get this repaired for free. The implied warranty laws in your state might be able to let you get something fixed, even if it's an Apple laptop, if it is, again, a seriously defective product that should still be working and you didn't abuse it in any way. It's better than just simply staying home grumping and writing a blog post about it that nobody's going to read.
Great if you're in Maine. Somebody ought to do an article on whether other states have these laws, because that is a really good tool.
I'm looking into it. Apparently there are 10, according to a law blog that hopefully enumerated that there are 10 states that have laws that are as powerful as this, but did not mention what they were. Massachusetts, for instance, has a law that is a lot more a lot of states have implied warranty laws, but they're complicated enough that it's easy to weasel out of them, if you follow. Whereas Maine's is very, very simple, and also they're very, very consistent on enforcement of it. So it is a very good card to keep in your wallet, so to speak. Whereas in other states, you might have a law that will help you, but essentially winning with this blunt instrument might be a long slog. But it's, again, once you're at the point where the seller or the store or the manufacturer is definitely not going to fix your defective product for you, you've got nothing to lose. You may as well at least force them to hire 1.5 hours worth of legal advice before they tell you to go take your ball and go home again.
By the way, it's a secondary recommendation for /r/Apple. Apple subreddit. There's some very good subreddits. That's another good one.
There are a lot of really great consumer. My favorite. I'll keep this short, but one of my favorite stories about Massachusetts consumer laws was somebody who was actually used to work for the consumer affairs office in Massachusetts got fired when a new governor decided to downsize that entire office. But he knew what the laws were. So when Circuit City, I think it was, had one of their flyers. So, ooh, everything in the store is on sale, nothing held back. He went in with a pocket calculator, filled up his cart with like thousands of dollars worth of stuff, paid for all of it with his credit card, and then pocketed the receipt and said, "I'd like to speak to the manager." I'm sorry, the flyer said everything is on sale, and if it's not, it's free. And apparently, whoever wrote that ad for the national ad did not realize that Massachusetts has a law that says that you cannot claim that something is on sale unless the discount is more than 3.5%. So they had to refund him every single one. They had like cameras, TVs, a pile of stuff, and they just simply had to give it all for free because none of that stuff was on sale. It's like what it is like. It's like being the one kid who's playing like Monopoly or Life or a board game who has taken the time to read the inside of the box lid. That I'm entitled to get $300 because I landed directly.
Were you
at free
that
parking.
kid?
Yeah, exactly.
I bet
no,
you were.
my friend was that kid, and I learned from that kid.
Always read the box top. Thank you, Andy. Alex, Lindsay, pick of the week.
So I went a little more expensive than normal.
Uh-oh.
So I have a mic.
Oh my God.
So I have a mic. So while I'm talking, you can hear me go in and out. And so it's a mic mute. It also has.
We call it a cough button in the radio biz.
Yeah, this one's a little bit more complex. So this is what's called a Studio Technologies Model 205. Now, this is running over Dante. So this is over Dante. So you now have
Ethernet.
This is power over Ethernet. So you literally have an Ethernet cable going into it. You can select a lot of different routing that's inside. So it's got a little control panel that you can run with it. It also has 2 talkback buttons. So if you're connected to a comms device, or if I have it running through Dante to Unity comms. If I push down my comm. You couldn't hear me now there because when I push my comms down, it automatically turns. It mutes me.
But whoever's on the other end of the comms, you say, "Hey, can you get me a cup of coffee? Because I'm dying." Yeah.
So I can do it off mic and everything else, and I've got 2 comms channels that I can work with that. Again, I can go straight into it, or I can process Dante, and it's a really powerful tool. It's a little more than a cough button, which I own. I own cough buttons.
So wait a minute, John says I can do that too. Wait a minute. So if I press this button. But
and what are you using for that?
Nothing. I don't think we use this at all. But we have a very fancy, thanks to our Axia system. We have
the Axia system
modules.
I have this. This is
we got on, off,
module.
talk back, mute. I got different program buttons. I got a dial and a knob and all that stuff. Yeah.
Axia. If you're working in an Axia system, that's a great control panel. This just works with anything.
Yeah. I think it uses Dante. Right.
Yeah, which is pretty much everything. I mean, you can get a Dante virtual sound card on your
Unfortunately, Axia doesn't use Dante, so we can't. But if I were building a studio today, actually, we love the Axia system, and Telos gave it to us, which was very generous of them.
Yeah, it's a great system.
Thank you, Kirk Harnack. I will be forever you'll be in my memoirs, Kirk. Forever grateful. But yeah, if we were going to build a studio today and we didn't have good friends at Telos, that would absolutely be most audio pipelines for most events. Yeah.
Radio, Axia is very popular. Most general purpose is Dante. Yeah. Is how things are passed around, and so it's a really it's one of those things I finally decided I should, because I use it literally all day, every day. Anytime I'm not talking in a meeting, all I have to do is tap a little button, and it's I'm off, and I. Hey,
Carlina, can you get the kids to shut up? Do you provide your wife with a comms system? You should.
Yeah, I don't think she'd appreciate that.
Wear that on the belt.
I think that would go across the ultimate laws of marriage, which is a happy wife is a happy life, and we just stay away from that one. So
Model 205 Announcer's Console from Studio Technologies. How much?
It's like $800.
That's not.
So it's not, but there's bigger ones too. It's just what's nice about this one is it fits on my desk, so it sits underneath my ATEM Extreme or whatever. Yeah. And so I have it. It's just a nice little.
Actually, Lisa compact. Needs a cough button for home.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't have a comms system though, but maybe I can get one, because sometimes
Unity comms is the easiest one.
She's been doing a lot of podcasts in her office at home, and instead of having her go screaming down the hall, The Zoom just broke. Get out of it. She could just do it on the comm system, and I could have a little earpiece.
Yeah.
Always be ready. That's a good idea.
Do that.
That's a good idea. Thank you, Alex Lindsay. 090.media if you want to hire Alex to do your next event, streaming event. And, of course, officehours.global is a fantastic place to hang out when you're not watching MacBreak Weekly.
We have a launch. We have a launch this week, Leo. We're launching a rocket.
What?
We're launching a rocket.
Is it
this
an
week.
Estes rocket or a real rocket?
It's a lot more. Well, so it's not a like a Tesla or a SpaceX level rocket, but it's not an Estes rocket either. So this is a fiberglass rocket. It's like 10 feet high.
Oh my God, you guys are nuts.
And so, no, it gets better. It gets better. It's not just that it's being launched. It is being launched on Saturday at 9. We'll put out some stuff. You can follow me on Twitter or whatever. But there's I think if you do Space OH or whatever, but it's the space group. The space group. There's like 40 people working on the broadcast. So there's then they're coming. They're all like descending on a little outside of Las Vegas. A guy, one of our members, John Preto, is the one that's doing the launch. And so he's just doing the launch. A couple people started talking. This is what happens in office hours. A couple people started talking about it, going, "Oh, that sounds really cool." And someone said, "I could do the graphics," and someone else said, "I can do the broadcast. I'll do the
Can
edit."
I be Walter Cronkite? We are standing on hold right now.
I'm sure we could include you in the broadcast. But we literally have one of the other members. She just got her medical degree, and she's getting ready to be part of a Mars mission in the future. And so she really knows a lot about space. And so she's our SpaceX. She's one of our. She's going to be doing commentary and talking about some of the stuff. And she's coming in Australia. So the other thing is there's this global. The graphics are being produced. I think I think Tuomo is in Finland, and sorry Tuomo if I get all those countries in there. My head don't separate well. So they're all coming together to talk about it, and so anyway, we're going to start the broadcast at 8:00 on Saturday morning, and then it will go, and I'll post it on Twitter or whatever, but it'll go live it should launch depending on. We literally have to get FAA approval. Like this is not like a little rocket, and they're taking trajectory out of the rockets to push back into the graphics. We think that there's a chance that our graphics will actually be better than SpaceX's graphics.
I want to see. Yes, I want to see I want to see the. So you're gonna have a camera on the rocket that you can see.
I think they're doing a camera on the rocket, but they're doing telemetry from the rocket the whole way up, and that telemetry is being driven back to live graphics. So
when is this going to be?
This Saturday.
Saturday.
We'll start the broadcast at 8. And then we'll at 9:00 that's when
we'll
should
light
launch.
that candle.
We're having a lot of fun. Yeah. It's gonna be
Global.
It's gonna be spectacular. Hopefully spectacularly good, but it will be spectacular either way.
If it blows up, all the more fun.
Exactly.
Andy Ihnatko, when are you going to be on GBH next?
12:30 in the afternoon this Friday. Just go to wgbhnews.org to stream it live or later.
Nice. And Mark Gurman.
Or go to the Boston Public Library because I'm going to be we're doing it in the studios that we just reopened. So you can buy a cup of coffee and watch me stumble through notes visibly while audibly. I seem to know what I'm talking about. I'm recalling all of this from memory.
Smooth. And of course, everybody should go to bloomberg.com/subscription/power-on to get Mark's great newsletter. Thank you, all three of you. Really great show. Really appreciate it. Great to have the insight into what's coming up next. We do MacBreak Weekly every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1900 UTC. Sorry, 1800 UTC now. All you have to do is tune in live.twit.tv. There's audio or video streams. If you're watching live, chat live at irc.twit.tv. Or if you're a Club Twit member, by the way, we do have video of the rocket going up here on Club Twit. If you're a Club Twit member, you can. Thank you, Patrick. You can join us in the Discord dedicated to Club Twit. Lots of good stuff going on in there. We've got some events coming up this week. Patrick Delahanty, who is a behind-the-scenes guy, does all the engineering. Thursday, 9 a.m., he'll be doing an Inside Twit. The book club with Stacy. Cory Doctorow's Unauthorized Bread is coming up on the 24th. On the 31st, Paul Thurrott with a fireside chat. We also have shows in there that we don't publish publicly, things like the Giz Fizz, the Untitled Linux show. We also develop shows there. Club Twit is a way that we can do a lot more with a limited amount of money. In fact, you even get ad-free versions of the shows because your $7 a month means we don't have to play ads for you. So if you'd like to join, if you don't want ads, you want to be in the Discord, you want to hear the TWiT Plus feed with all the special content, just go to twit.tv/clubtwit, $7 a month. I think it's a good deal. A couple of coffees, and you too could be riding that rocket ship to the moon. Please, kids, don't try this at home. After the fact, on-demand versions of the show are available at the website, twit.tv/MBW. There's a dedicated YouTube channel as well. You can catch it there. Or subscribe in your favorite podcast player. Probably that's the best way to get it. That way you get it automatically. You don't have to think about it. You just, whenever you're in the mood, you can listen to MacBreak Weekly. And if your podcast player has a review section, please leave us a 5-star review. That would really help the longest running Mac show in the world. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. Now get back to work, because break time is over.
The world is changing rapidly. So rapidly, in fact, that it's hard to keep up. That's why Micah Sargent and I, Jason Howell, talk with the people making and breaking the tech news on Tech News Weekly every Thursday. They know these stories better than anyone, so why not get them to talk about it in their own words? Subscribe to Tech News Weekly, and you won't miss a beat every Thursday at twit.tv.